National Endurance Racing, John Hindhaugh, and a man who knows the 12-hour better than anyone, Richard Craill.
No pressure, Stubbsy. And Neil, thank you for that. Welcome along, everybody. I'm joined up here by John Hindhaugh and Johnny Palmer, and this field is one of the best we've ever seen, filled with talent from top to bottom.
Look at the names, not just the manufacturers, but the names in the cars. Is there a single car that doesn't have a quality lineup?
Certainly not, and it's so tricky to pick who's going to go well tonight for the Pirelli top 10 shootout, but the 11 manufacturers that Crompo points out, I mean, just the state of GT3 racing is very healthy indeed.
More than 360 Supercars Championship race victories in this field. There are World Endurance Championships, 10 Spa 24-hour victories. The list goes on and on. It is as deep as this field has ever been.
Now, for us internationals this morning, we got a real taste of Australian motorsport when we had to red flag the practice session because of, well, I think what it's called a meet-up of some description. It was a flash mob of ruse.
The Kangaroo didn't get timed, by the way. It didn't register in the results, and none were harmed in the making of that practice session. It was a wild one, though, as everyone pushed the limits to get their cars into qualifying trim. We saw a couple of big impacts. The Hub Auto Ferrari into the fence at the top of Mount Panorama, and a serious brake issue for the Bentley with Oliver Jarvis behind the wheel, off the road at the chase, fired across the road and into the tyre bundles on the exit with big damage. The Lamborghini was fast, AMGs were quick. Gents down in the lane, this field is stacked, it is ready to go, and qualifying is coming up soon.
Absolutely, and the campgrounds are packed as well. Sweltering, you'd want to have your air conditioning set if you're out in the paddock, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's going to be a big storyline, not only in qualifying later on this afternoon and the top 10 shootout, but certainly in tomorrow's race. It's affecting drivers, crews, and certainly cars, a lot of them suffering in terms of straight line speed. But we love rivalry in this business, and one of the things that we want to play up this weekend is Aussies versus the rest of the world. What about Matt Campbell? He's a huge story, 24 years of age, from Warwick in Queensland. He was a former Carrera Cup champion. This man, on the subject of champions, Craig Lowndes, 7 times a winner at Mount Panorama. He's also won the 12-hour on a couple of occasions. Chaz Mostert, Daytona 24-hour class winner last weekend. He's feeling a little unwell so far this weekend. He's been doing a lot of travelling. Of course, he's got a new supercar ride this year. And Jamie Whincup, 7-time Virgin Australia's Supercars champion. He'll be driving the Mercedes, and he's in the 888 Works car this weekend. Rick Kelly will be driving with Scott Dixon in the Aston Martin in the Castrol car. Another guy to look out for who's had a couple of Bathurst 1000 victories.
Absolutely. We'll be catching up with most of those guys as we build up to qualifying. Of course, a 3-stage qualifying coming up as we build up to the Pirelli top 10 shootout. The international ensemble is just as strong. Let's have a look at some of the drivers to watch.
The international stars are back at the mountain. After coming so close in 2019, Aston Martin returned with fast Brit Jake Dennis and 5-time IndyCar champ Scott Dixon. Audi returned with Chris Mees, Christopher Haase, Marcus Winkelhock, Kelvin van der Linde, and 2018 winner Dries Vanthoor. Bentley have made 2 changes from last year. Brits Alex Buncombe and Sebastian Morris don the iconic white suits. At BMW, Augusto Farfus is joined by Nicky Katzberg. Ferrari will tackle the IGTC season with Brazilians Marcos Gomez and Daniel Serra, as will Lamborghini with Italian pair Andrea Caldarelli and Marco Mappelli. The Honda NSX makes its first appearance in Australia with Daytona 24-hour winner Renger van der Zande the headline act, and McLaren welcome back 2016 winner Alvaro Perez. At Mercedes AMG, some serious firepower. Maro Engel, Maxi Berg, Maxi Götz all return, as does newly crowned GT3 world champion Raffaele Marciello. Finally, Porsche boast a phenomenal team of Le Mans winners and Nürburgring heroes, with team boss Earl Bamber back behind the wheel, and factory duo Mathieu Jaminet and Patrick Pillay partnering the star of the 2019 race, Australia's Matt Campbell.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. It is, without doubt, the best lineup we've seen here for the Bathurst 12-hour. We have a great lineup for you as well in the pits, getting all the interviews, breaking news, and giving us the atmosphere from the paddock and beyond. Joining us, Chad Nailon, Charlie Robinson, and our own international. She's back, Shay Adam.
scary moments for Ollie Jarvis out there during that final session of the day. But Ollie, good news is you're in one piece and the car is being repaired.
Yeah, I'm all good. Unfortunately, a lot of damage to the car, but nothing that can't be fixed. So the guys are working flat out, as you see in the background. And, I don't think we're going to make quali, but hopefully we'll get back out for the race tomorrow. Probably start at the back, but I think you can still win this race from there.
It's not where you start, it's where you finish. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Jamie, you're a Bathurst winner here at the 12 Hour. You've stood at the top of the podium for the 1,000 as well. Yeah. You're here today. You know supercars back the front, but how does it feel when you don't know all the drivers on the field, what they're capable of, the cars? Is it exciting or like the first day of school?
It's all of the above. It's exciting. It's a big challenge. We feel like we're a little bit of a fish out of water. If we're here in the supercar, we know it back to front, know what we're doing. But in saying that, the AAA have done a lot of GT racing, especially last year over in Europe. Not in Europe, in the Asian series. So we've been here 2 or 3 times, so we should know what we're doing. So we'll have a bit of a crack here in qualifying and see what we can do.
Yeah, just a matter of staying cool. Get out there and have fun.
Yeah, what you can't see, it's 38 degrees or something today. Crazy. So hot. So it's hot inside the car, but all good fun. Thanks. Beautiful.
Plenty of good combinations. This is one of the fan favourites. We've got El Bamba and Craig Lowndes. Now, this is the bromance between Bamthor, they call it. How are you fitting in here with Lawrence and the team?
Well, that's why we did another T-shirt, had that, plus me. Yeah. So I'm the third wheeler. But look, it's great. Obviously, Earl has come and joined us in Supercar World. Now I'm coming across and looking after him in the GT World.
Now, I hear you're going to be in the car for the first qualifying session?
Yes.
All right, so that's exciting, which means that the man they call Larry is now going to be taking over for Q2. Where did the nickname come from for Lawrence?
Well, actually, I just made it up one time. We were in America, and, Lawrence isn't that American name, so we thought, since we're over there, NASCAR, Larry. So it's actually really stuck, and now even in all the Porsche meetings and everything like that, he's introduced as Larry, but, we've had a great sort of relationship. Started off with him flipping in Macau a couple of years ago, but, now we follow each other around the world, and some fans started the hashtag Bamthor, and it's sort of stuck, and now we've been making T-shirts, so it's really cool. It's good fan interaction. It's a good bit of fun.
The shirts are raising money for the bushfires. I'm looking forward to seeing Larry out there a little later on.
Absolutely. Craig Lowndes going for a 10th victory at the mountain. You can see the cars are heading out. Qualifying 1 about to get underway. Let's give back to our commentators. Johnny Palmer joining John Hindhoff and Richard Crail.
Yeah, thanks, Dubsy. Really looking forward to this 2-part qualifying, which at the very end of it, ultimately, we end up with the 10 fastest cars that will tackle the Pirelli Top 10 shootout later on this afternoon. Always a thrilling moment at Mount Panorama. Cars are out, 45 minutes on the clock for qualifying 1. But before we get into the session, it's worth just reminding ourselves of this phenomenal location, about 180 kilometres to the west of Sydney, the capital of New South Wales, and the best bit of bitumen in the world. It's 225 metres to turn 1. It's a simple corner on paper. Often the reality is very, very different. Griffin's Bend, the climb, it's 1 in 6. The gradient at the steepest point before the cutting. They're climbing up the hill now to BP Ultimate Reed Park. Solomon Park, little bit called Frog Hollow on driver's right, Reed Park, and then McPhillamy. They're all famous, iconic names in Australian motorsport. And then the world disappears beneath your steering wheel as you plunge off the hill at Skyline and down through the S's and into the Dipper, that iconic corner at turn 14. A quick blast down to the elbow, and it's a critical corner because it sets up the 1.8 kilometre run down Conrod Straight to the fastest corner in the sport at the Chase, and the big braking zone up the hill into the left, then the right. You do it all again, and if it goes as green as it did last year, you'll do it more than 300 times. And in a GT3 car, the number to watch, 2 minutes, 1 second, .286. That is the qualifying lap record at this venue, was set by Shane Van Gisbergen in 2016.
I often say when we do track maps around the world, Krilsey and JP, that, it looks pretty easy on paper when you look at some track maps. Mount Panorama, even as a track map in 2D, looks scary. It looks scary to me, and the reality is even more so. For so much of this, it's almost like a street circuit, because there is absolutely, Johnny, no room to make a mistake.
No, and that was proven by the Kangaroos earlier on. They couldn't escape the track either because of the wall up through the cutting and beyond. Yeah, I mean, it just cowers down on you, this place, and it is high pressure stakes, especially across the top. A big almost lose for Lowndes, I noticed, coming out of turn 1 there on coolish tyres, and the number 1 Porsche did well to straighten up from that.
This is Craig's first time in Porsche 911 GT3R. He's driven a range of GT3 cars here. This is car 60 we're on board with. On board, yeah, the McLaren 720 GT3, which was quite competitive in practice earlier on today, and Alvaro Parent, former winner, got the car into the 10. This is Ben Varnicoat, the young Brit, behind the wheel. Should just explain how this session rolls out. 45 minutes on the clock for qualifying 1. Essentially what we're doing here is setting the grid for the Invitational class and the GT4 classes. After this, they're done. We then roll into a separate, shorter session just for the GT3 cars. That sets grid positions 11 back and determines the 10 cars that go forward into the top 10 shootout. The quirk is that as of the commencement of this session, you are not allowed to refuel your cars. So you'll be burning fuel throughout this first 45 minutes, and then you'll burn it through the next lot to get yourself into the shootout. You can make changes to the car in between or during the session, not in between them, but you cannot put fuel in. So the cars, what that means, Johnny, is they'll get faster and faster and faster as the fuel load burns off.
Yeah, kind of like a modern-day Formula 1 qualifying session as well. So that's exciting for us. And theoretically, we're going to see the fastest times, therefore, in the Pirelli Top 10 Shootout to finish today's coverage. So Matteo Cairoli across the line in the 912 Absolute Racing Porsche. Real swift Italian driver who can be found in the World Endurance Championship and other domestic endurance series as well across in Europe. And a 206.7 sets a reasonable benchmark, but we're expecting times to tumble by a good 4, maybe even 5 seconds from that.
We've already talked about the temperatures. It is properly hot in the central west of New South Wales, and it's been a story over the weekend, both from a driver health perspective, making sure that they're looked after in the car, but from a car performance standpoint as well. Straight line speed tends to come down. The car's perhaps not producing as much horsepower, and there's been a little bit of a trend that the turbocharged cars especially have been struggling, and so far, whether it's a direct result of the weather or it's just that these are the faster cars, it's been an Audi, Mercedes, Porsche domination of the weekend, and they are the 3 main brands with normally aspirated vehicles running this weekend.
Yeah, caught a glimpse of the number 7 Bentley, the one that looks far more like the designer intended there as the work continues actually beneath our feet in the number 8, but we're not going to see that, well, until tomorrow, and let's keep our fingers crossed that it can tag on the back to maybe pull off an incredible result tomorrow for the 12-hour.
I was just about to say 3 Valvoline liveried Audis, and the double 2, Chris Mees, just going the scenic route at the top of the mountain there, and that wasn't as bad as it could have been. It'll have got a bit of gravel in the car. Was that another wiggle coming through? That was, but it was earlier in the piece. My, how close was he to the wall on the right-hand side? And then he rally crosses it back to terra firma in the 22. 3 really lovely looking cars. That one a little more dusty now.
Audi has a significant rallying heritage with the Quattro and World Rally Championship. I'm not quite sure that's what they intended the R8 to do. Fine piece of car control from Christopher Mees, a double winner of this race, Aussie GT champion, and officially the fastest ever guy around this place in a de-restricted Audi R8 GT3 car a couple of years ago. Popped into the 159s, which shows the true potential of this Audi R8. That was a hairy moment, and twice today we've seen moments up there at McPhillamy Park. The Ferrari ended up in the fence. And Aston Martin had a very big lose there this morning, but managed to get away with it, caught the slide, and just had a detour through the gravel trap. So the margins are tiny up at McPhillamy Park in a 220 km/h corner where these cars are loaded up on the Pirelli tyre and loaded with aerodynamic downforce as well.
Jordan Pepper, the young South African driver in the number 7. Bentley coming to the Liqui Moly Murray's corner, the final of the 23 turns around this circuit. Jordan, who's been promoted up from customer racing with Bentley, and now a full Bentley boy, starting his 2nd season in that very, very pretty dark green car with the famous logo, the Flying V. Let's not forget what's going on in the Invitational class as well, gentlemen, because they are setting their grids. It will be locked in. It's the marked cars with the coupes, the Series 2 machines that make up all of the invitation class, and then 2 very significant entries in GT4, one from BMW and one from Mercedes, and we're debuting the new Mercedes AMG GT4 this season. Meantime, showing well under the Liqui Moly bridge and down towards the final corner, the 999 coming through. You'll not miss that one in the car park, will you?
Raffaele Marcello behind the wheel.
Straight up to 9th position there, Krilsey, for Rafa.
Exciting young Italian driver who was such a star at this place last year.
And that is one of the three new AMG GT3s. Bigger grille, slightly different lights, and a lot of difference in terms of how they drive in competition. Porsche trying to go back-to-back here. It's only been done once before, and it was done by their arch enemy within the group of Volkswagen AG, and that was Audi, and they will want to go back-to-back, and they've come mob-handed here this year, Johnny Palmer.
Rick Kelly up to 4th place, I notice, in the Aston Martin, the 76 car with the Castrol backing, and Fred Verviche in one of the 3 Valvoline Audis neatly placed now to 3rd. But Ben Barnicoat becomes the fastest car out there, the McLaren 720S GT3. So the McLaren is one of the turbocharged cars with the 4-litre V8. Looks spectacular, and in 2 very different colour schemes this weekend.
And that's by far the fastest lap that a McLaren has put in this weekend. 205.4.
No, Alvaro Parent went much quicker than that in practice this morning, though it was cooler ambient conditions. Still in the 30s, but cool is relative when you've got a weekend like this here in Bathurst in New South Wales. But that's a solid lap. The pace not overly hot as the temperature at the moment, 205.4. Equivalent session last year, they were into the very high 202s and ultimately the low 2s in qualifying number 2.
Closed garage door says so much down here in pit lane. We know that behind this one, it's the Bentley team, and M Sport are working very hard to get that car ready, not for qualifying, but for the race, which we've already talked about. But if we go down a garage and the next door neighbours, unfortunately, guys, the news isn't so good. The garage door is down at Hub Auto, and the Ferrari, the rear end damage that they sustained in practice, looks to be, unfortunately, now too much to fix. So while the paperwork, they tell me, hasn't been handed in, this car will be scratched from the race. So that's one Nissan and one Ferrari out of action.
Meantime, we've got a red flag, and again, it's the top of the mountain that's claimed another victim, and again, it's one of the Audi Sport Team Valvoline cars. This time, not the 22, but the 2, and Frederic Verviche is off, and he has made contact with the wall.
Yeah, this might be another late-night Bathurst repair to go into the record books. He's gone off at high speed, big plume of dust at the top of the mountain, and through it came the very pretty Audi R8. Great new livery with Valvoline continuing their support of this team. Troy Russell and the team at Audi Sport Customer Racing Australia have got 8 factory drivers in Garth Tander this year. So it's the second car in queue, and it's an oversteer issue. So he's turned the car in, the rear's broken away, and a lot of drivers have been complaining about oversteer, about a nervous race car all weekend. These hot conditions, the way the tyres are moving around and the downforce on the car, they're snapping into oversteer. Remember, 220k plus.
Absolutely nothing Verviche could have done about that. Remember, part of the balance of performance is ride height, so you don't get necessarily the choice that you want, and that was gone early as well, maybe even round about the same place or earlier than we saw from Chris Meese earlier on. We've seen now 4 cars have a big wiggle at exactly the same point of the circuit. The 2 Audis, however, losing the back end earlier in the piece from what we saw with the Aston and the mid-engine Ferrari earlier on.
I'm genuinely surprised that the Audis are struggling over there, because they have been the masters over the top of the mountain in recent years. But I think that's an indication of how tightrope the Audi guys have had to go from setup point of view.
Would you pull me out and I try to drive back? Off.
Fred Verviche having a chat with our track services guys.
Well, that's interesting because
need to try to go back if it's possible. So can I at least try?
he wants to try to drive the car back, and it did hit the tyres side on, which, if there's a saving grace to a crash there, is that in that the side impact of the car will be less severe on the internal components, driveline, wishbones, uprights and things like that than it would had he gone in with a hard impact into a corner of the vehicle.
He was asking whether all the wheels were still on the car.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the answer came that yes, it was, but I think there's a right front. It's not a hard impact, he said. Well, I tell you what, wait till he sees the onboard later on. But it looks to me as though there's right front steering or suspension damage on that car. That might take him a little time to come down. And what the worry is from the track services, and thanks to all of our more than 300 volunteers this weekend, is that he'll shed other body parts or cause more problems on the way back down. Red flag in Quali 1.
Dries, Frederick is doing a really good job trying to convince the marshals that he can drive the car back. What's it like when you go from being the fastest car in the last session to watching your car sitting in a sand trap?
It can always happen here. I mean, Freddie was doing a good job till then, but I don't know what happened. We have to check. But I mean, hopefully he can convince them to come back, and then we still have a second session where we can take part. So it's going to be hard, but it's not over yet.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Certain sense of resignation there, wasn't there? And Vervees is out of the car. And you've got to. Drivers are hopeful, have hopeful little hearts at Johnny Palmer. And I've been in that position before where you think, I can get it back, I can get it back. But even if you can, it's just going to take more time and potentially cause more issues bringing it back down. I mean, it was just gone from the moment he came over the rise and turned that car in.
Strange, because earlier on today, I mean, maybe just down to track conditions, but Dries Vanthoor in the very same car did a 2:03.4, which is a lot faster than we're going right now. But yeah, maybe because it's so hot up there that the asphalt's not offering the grip.
Remember, they're also carrying a full fuel load as well, because you're not allowed to refuel during qualifying, so you're burning that fuel off.
Now, so that's interesting. He was off the gas that time when that car spun. The ones that we saw earlier, certainly the Aston Martin and the Ferrari, they were back on the throttle, but that was lift-off oversteer there, which is an absolute nightmare. That means when you've come off the gas, normally when you're on the throttle, the car is sitting at a relatively stable platform. He's come off the throttle, it changes the dynamics of the car and the weight transfer of the car, going away from the back end and onto the front just as he's turning in, and the back end comes around.
Which will be more pronounced because it's got more than 100 kilos comfortably of fuel parked in the fuel cell, so the balance of the car will change because of that. And that's something we'll talk about tomorrow, is the race cars changing over the stint as they burn their fuel and get towards their next pit stop. The handling changes with that. So perhaps that's caught it out, but we've seen all weekend that the margin there, it's already tiny in the first place, but this weekend it has been razor thin. If you're slightly wide offline at the turn into McPhillamy Park, past the McPhillamy Park gates on driver's right, you are off the road, and you either get lucky and you drive through the gravel trap, or you experience what happened to Fred Vervees and end up parked in the tyres.
So 4 or 5 cars at least have been through that gravel or worse with that oversteer moment. Oversteer is when you turn the wheels and the car wants to turn more than you do. So in the old parlance, rally driving friends of mine, Michael Wilson actually is down there, too much oversteer is when you hit the tree backwards, and too much understeer is when you hit the tree forwards. That's
everyone could understand that, can't they?
That's how it was explained to me back in my rally co-driving days. And rally drivers like Malcolm always put it in co-driver's side. That was the other thing. It was always going to be your side.
It is interesting how when Luca Giotto went wide earlier on today in the Aston, that being a front-engine car, though, it didn't rotate. It just went wide through the gravel and he was able to recover, whereas the Ferrari has gone backwards into the barrier, and the Audis look very skittish as well. They swap ends because they're mid-engine, perhaps.
Like the Chris Meeks one where he went through, he was so close to the wall on the right-hand side.
That's it.
Brock Feeney, incredible. 17 years of age, first time here at Bathurst. Your car is leading the Mark II cars right now with Nick Percat behind the wheel. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You know, first time here at Bathurst, so it's a great experience for me here, and Nick's out there doing a great job. He's fastest at the moment. He popped up to P2 overall. at one point there. So he's doing an awesome job, and I'm super excited to be here.
It's pretty incredible because you're in year 12 doing your high school certificate and you're here, you've won, you're the champion of Super 3, you'll be joining our Super 2 program this year. Life's good right now.
Yeah, it's incredible, and then for this opportunity to pop up so late as well is great. So, busy year ahead for me, year 12, Super 2, and this weekend as well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and it's great to lean off Nick this weekend and learn for everything.
Nick given you any great advice for the mountain?
Yeah, he's been great. He's won here before, so he knows all about it. So he's been great this weekend, been working through it the whole weekend. So he's been really good, and, got 12 hours of racing tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll learn plenty then as well.
It's great. All the best. You're doing fabulous.
No worries. Thank you.
What were you doing at that age?
Oh, it's completely and utterly useless. No hope of driving a racing car. The Fiend, he's a superstar in the making, young Brock Feeney, at 16 years of age, racing in what was the Super 3 Series last year and winning races under the tutelage of Paul Morris. To deal with Tickford Racing this year. He's a bright young star of Aussie motorsport moving forward.
Now, we do have the opportunity to extend this qualifying for 10 minutes. We're eating into that at the moment. The clock is still stopped. We'll keep an eye on that.
Been such a bruising start to this year's Liqui Moly 12-hour. We're not even got into the race yet. This is one of the cars that has been officially scratched. And what strikes me about this when you come and have a look at it is it's back together. It's completely back together. Sans a couple of very aggressive-looking rear taillights on this car. Now, come back around the end of the GTR, and if we have a look in here, you can actually see still some of the chassis damage, though. So it's a little window into pain here as to exactly why this car has been pulled out of the race. So it's a real unfortunate thing because it only grazed the wall yesterday at Reed Park, but it was enough to unfortunately cause those chassis rails to get damaged. Now, what you've got to remember, these cars are essentially built up from production scale cars. So it's essentially a road-going chassis. So while Australian motor cars that we see here racing, typically at Mount Panorama, can take a bit of a rear whack like that, it is a lot harder to get a GT3 car back on track because they do sustain quite a lot of chassis damage, and that chassis is made to crumble like that to protect the driver. I just wanted to give you a look at what it looks like in the other car. We've got JP de Oliveira in the car right now. So this is what we're talking about. Roll cage, chassis, everything complete here. A very hot day in there for JP right now, but the Brazilians, I'm sure, can deal with some pretty hot weather down here. So unfortunately, we did see one of the Nissans get scratched from the race. We do have this car, the sister car, and the solo entry as well down further up pit lane, which has Brody Kostecki in it. Looking forward to seeing how he goes as a young up-and-coming Australian driver. But the big shame there is so many Aussie fans love seeing Katsumasa Chio, but no Chio this year at the mountain now.
One of the most amazing things to watch is when disaster strikes, how the crews respond. Bentley, for example, down right now trying to fix the number 8, very calm in that garage. No yelling, no screaming. Same thing for Audi, the Team Valvoline. As soon as they saw the number 2 in the fence, they went to work. How did they go to work? Well, they started watching our pictures to see what spare parts they would need. Keep in mind, there's no car in this garage right now. We've got a brand new splitter. We've got an entire new drive shaft and upright, an entire system of hub and everything ready to go on the right front of the Audi when it does make its way back. We've got more boxes being unpacked off to my left where driver's assistants are there. We've got new hubs there potentially for the rear. They've got more boxes back in the truck. They've been using our pictures to figure out how to fix their car because time is of the essence.
And one great thing about Audi and their commitment to this event, Creelsey, with Audi Sport Customer Racing, and the man at the head of that, Chris Renke, is here this weekend over from Germany, showing just how important it is to them. The commitment is that they bring 3, 4, 5 parts trucks to these events. Yes, the team will have some of their own spares, clearly, but for maybe the bigger items, if there's a gearbox or something like that, they can go and knock on the door and get one signed out.
Well, it's helped even more so by the fact that the Valvoline cars are the factory Audi team in Australia anyway, so they just wandered back to their truck. You saw just before we heard from Chad Nailon down at the damaged Nissan, and sad to see that car out. You saw Troy Russell, who's the team boss down there, marshalling his troops, calmly going about a briefing, going, right, this is how we're going to attack it. The moment that car gets back, they'll go to work. And while we won't see it again today, that car will be able to take the start to the motor race tomorrow morning. And while this race hasn't been won from the back of the field, you can certainly have a go. And at Mount Panorama, you just need to be in the game for the final hour and get to the checkered flag.
One of the extraordinary things that we celebrate about this event is the diversity of lots of different types of machine. We've got 11 different brands of GT car here this weekend. I'm standing alongside the Mercedes, the AMG factory entry that's also being run by 888 Race Engineering. This is in fact the car that they've been running in the Asian GT Championship. 6.3 litre fuel injected V8. One of the curiosities about the way in which the GT cars balance their performance is what we describe in supercars as parity. They use a different formula to try and make sure that the competition remains even. So they play with the weights of the car, and all of the vehicles up and down here, the McLaren, the BMW, the Mercedes, the Audis, the whole lot, they have varying levels of weight that they're carrying. They also play with the fundamental, which is the amount of air that goes into the engine. So if you mess with that, you can keep things even. And inside the garages at the moment, SRO, the people that manage the series, are keeping a very close eye on the way in which they're all performing relative to each other. They make adjustments to that weight race after race and year after year. They make adjustments to the amount of air-fuel ratio that gets into the engine. And they also play with the amount of fuel that comes down from the towers as well, and they restrict or open up the fuel flow for the stops. Jamie Whincup's in that car at the moment. Qualifying's about to get underway once again, but isn't that a cool machine?
It is very cool indeed, with the man-filter livery, which we are so used to seeing at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, another major GT3 race. Hello to everybody over in Europe as well who are watching this real international field on a very, very impressive day here at Mount Panorama, just after 2 o'clock in the morning. Back in the UK, and still people tuning in. That, Grillsy, is the pull of the mountain.
Just to further Neil's point, excellently explained about the balance of performance. The unique nature of Mount Panorama means that most occasions we come here with these cars, it's the most open GT3 field in terms of that balance that we see anywhere in the world, because this place is so unique. There's 2 long straights, so the cars that are BOP to have good straight line performance are great going up and down the hill. The cars with a bit of extra aero or a lower ride height are faster across the top of Mount Panorama. It turns out that in qualifying this time 12 months ago, we had 18 cars and 9 brands covered by less than a second.
Yep.
So the system works. It's often controversial. It's the go-to for drivers when they're unhappy with their day, but the system works, and this place especially, it promotes phenomenal motor racing.
Just talking to the Bathurst Regional Council officials just a little bit earlier on. Unseasonably warm here at the moment in Bathurst. It's been very dry as well as we go back to green. Still 34 minutes on the clock. So the drivers and the teams, as well as the spectators here, having to deal with the very, very warm weather. I said to Grillsy before we came in for this session, this is one of the few times that I think I'm quite happy in an air-conditioned booth rather than standing trackside watching the cars go around. The wind is getting up again, and down the Liqui Moly front straight, the banners of the manufacturers and the partners here are out at 90 degrees from the flagpoles, and that is going to affect the aero. Now, are we getting wind behind the cars coming up over the top of the mountain? When that happens, it effectively turns round your downforce and takes a little bit of that downforce and the pressure pushing down on the rear wheels. It's then not as efficient, and the car then not working at its optimal aerodynamics. I wonder if that gusty wind is causing some of the problems up there.
Nice windmill. I would agree with you.
Thanks.
It will mean 2 things. One, going into turn 1, it's coming from the east, so it's blowing directly down the start-finish straight. So it's a headwind into Hell Corner. They'll be braking really
Super
late going in there to get the cars turned in. But you're bang on. That means when you're going back the other way across the top, the wind's blowing across the side of the car or up the back diffuser and over the rear wing. So entirely likely that it may have been that aero imbalance with the wind blasting as it is at the moment, changing the balance of the car and firing poor old Fred Vervees off. He's still 3rd on the road. He won't stay there. And in the end, it doesn't really matter, because this session's just all about building yourself up and working through to qualifying 2.
I'm indebted to a number of people who are tweeting in from around the circuit as well to give us little updates. The 63 Ferrari that was so good earlier on, still sitting on its jacks, no wheels on, and I don't think we saw it in that first part of the session there.
That's the Hub Auto car that hit the fence at Philippi earlier this morning. I'm not I'm not convinced we see that.
Sorry, the 63 Lambo. My apologies.
Lambo.
The 63 Lamborghini, the Triple F Lamborghini, or my apologies, Lamborghini. That's sitting there. I wonder if they haven't fully fueled that car and it's just sitting and not risking coming out until it needs to.
Entirely likely.
Wrong Italian manufacturer there. I'm overly excited. That's all it is.
The Italians will write in about that. Hashtag B12HR if you're displeased with that comparison between the two iconic Italian brands. Yeah, entirely likely they're playing the game. This is live at the back of the paddock now. Audi Sport Team Valvoline Garage, and they're already on the car. It's not even off the back of the truck yet, and already diving into the front right corner. And the looks of the toe out on that right front corner, there was no way Fred, as keen as he was going to be able to drive the two-car back.
Certainly a steering arm gone on that, but also, as you say, maybe hub failure as well to create that negative camber. But they've also got a drive shaft sorted, so they can repair the rear right as well if that's too badly gone. Hopefully, it's not going to affect the drive, and when drive shafts are damaged, that can also start to interfere with gearboxes as well. Not a quick repair.
So getting back up to speed here. Do you know, when most of us go to work, generally, and not that I'm calling this work, by the way, but I remember when I had what my lovely old dad would have said is a proper job. You sort of got into work, you had a chat with your mates, you might get yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, maybe pick up the newspaper, whatever, find out what's happening overnight, and then you settle yourself down at your desk and you start working. Can't do that here, can you? You're out, you're on it, and you have to be 100% focused and committed and concentrated immediately that your thumb comes off the pit lane speed limit.
Well, and if you don't, you're in the wall. It's as simple as that, because this place bites as hard as any racetrack in the world. Jamie Whincup on a decent lap in car AAA. This isn't the first outing for this race team that we know so well here in Australia in GT racing. They were here last year with Mercedes-AMG GT3 and finished fourth with Whincup joined by Shane Van Gisbergen and Craig Lowndes in that Ultimate Supercars trio. I think there were 260-odd supercar wins between the three of them that year. So that was a really good performance, but they've been racing in the GT Asia Championship for the last 12 months, building up their experience in GT racing. So they come back to the mountain for a second year with the Mercedes in really good shape and battle-hardened, ready to go head-to-head with some of the most experienced GT teams in the world.
So just into the pits, the 76 Aston has come in with Rick Kelly at the wheel. That's the Castrol car. Looks an absolute picture. Now that car's come into the pits, but effectively there's nothing they can do to that car.
They can make changes to the setup during the session. They can't put fuel in it. That's the only thing. They can put tyres on. They can make aero tweaks if they want. Between this session and Quali 2 is parked for me. Right. You're not allowed to touch the cars between then. Now, fair game. You can do whatever you want within the scope of having 28 minutes left.
John, you've absolutely picked it with the Triple F Lamborghini. It is a concern of just not wanting to go out there and touch the thing if they don't need to. So because this essentially acts as a practice session for the Class A cars, the Lamborghini is still in the pit bunker, but I can tell you that Marco Pirelli is putting his ears in. He's just about to put the helmet on and get out there for the last half hour of this session. Another car off down to the chase, but nothing too bad. But we will see this car going out later. They're just so happy with how it was after practice session number 5. They don't want to take any chances.
And to the top, JP de Oliveira in the remaining KCMG Nissan GTR. What a weekend it's been for those guys already. They throw all of their inconsiderable weight behind the single car, and that's paid off with a 204.5470, top of the shop, and more incidents up at the top of the mountain. Just, I think, a bit of dust thrown up this time. Oh, there's people running down. No, it's gone off. Whatever car it is, it's gone off, and the crowd's even trying to slow people down. It's been a huge incident for the Scandia Mark cars too. Oh my goodness, that's the 26 car, the 26th position car out on the circuit, and that's Tyler Everingham in the Mark II cars, number 92. And is that second car involved?
That's the Ben Motorsport Park entry that's gone in as well. Car 777. Running in the Pro-Am class, Sam Shahin is shown as being behind the wheel. Red flag conditions, lots of debris at the top of the mountain. That's been a very, very big accident. Young Tyler Everingham behind the wheel of car 92 was third in class at the time of that, and there's an errant wheel floating down the mountain as well. And was the 19, the GT4 car, Dirk Miller behind the wheel, was he caught up in that? Or is he just stopped
I think
to
he's
render
just
assistance?
stopped.
Yeah.
I think he's just stopped, and great teamwork to get the driver out of the bend. Motorsport park car, making sure that everything is unfastened. There's drinks bottles and comms devices, and yeah, what great camaraderie there.
I think that's Dirk Muller.
It is.
Out of the 19.
It is. He's out. He stopped and got out. He must have seen how big that was, and he's looking at that Mercedes and making sure. Do you know what?
Yeah.
He's making sure that's turned off, because the driver's probably had his bell rung a little bit. It's the same point of the circuit, guys, that's been the danger area and been the action area.
So 777 in front. Oh, there's contact from behind, and it's fired it across to driver's right. That's an enormous impact into a hard concrete wall. So Everingham's been caught up as collateral damage in that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Man, it was the lightest of touches from the Lamborghini. The red and white concentric circle colours on that car make it very easy to spot, going back to the old M1 Pro Car days. So what happened further on, and who was caught up in that?
Oh, man.
That, no wonder Dirk Muller stopped. That was a huge, huge incident.
That's Everingham.
That's Everingham.
Yep. So that's occurred afterwards in collateral damage. I'd suggest getting out of the way, or trying to avoid the Ben Motorsport park car.
Were there yellows for the mark, and then the Mercedes is slowed up? But no, the mark incident happens first. There are yellow flags out, and maybe Sam Shahin's slowing up because of that. It's weird, because I just looked at the other side of Brock Skyline and couldn't see a heavily damaged Mercedes. I don't know what order that happened in, but it seems like two completely separate crashes.
And young Tyler's out of the car. He's a rising star in our sport in supercars racing, Super 2 Series. Very, very competitive race winner in that category.
Car getting airborne as it hit the wall. And then, 100 metres or so further back up the track to Brock Skyline. So one thing that we can say is, coming up onto the top of the mountain, the bend, AMG comes through.
Where's the marked car in the background?
There's no marked car there, but neither is there any yellow flags out. There's a blue flag there, and there's the tiniest of touches, but no yellow flags at the top of the mountain as they go through. The yellow flag's being grabbed after the incident that's going on in front of the marshal's post at the top. And so where's Tyler coming through that then? Wow, what a big hit.
Yasser Shahin here in the garage, just looking at your brother. Pretty evil images up at the top of the hill. Your thoughts?
Not pleasant, but he's walking, and that's all that matters.
So how much gear have you got in terms of support materials to be able to turn the car around, if in fact it can be?
I think the truck's pretty full.
Okay, that's good.
Let's see what happens.
Right. Luckily he's out of the car and looking okay. We'll go for a bit of a wander. Thanks, mate. Have a good afternoon. This is the car that Anton was going to drive. Dave Couchy here as well. Quick word, that was pretty wild.
Yeah, mate. Obviously, good to see Sam get out of the car first. A big shunt. Yeah, not good. Hopefully, obviously, the car hit the wall pretty hard. We'll have a look at it. Sort of doesn't look too shat. So, yeah, obviously no good here, but we'll work on it, see what happens and go from there.
Thanks, mate. I'll have a quick word to Roland before you disappear. I asked you yesterday about how much support Mercedes AMG bring to these events, and there's an enormous truck with lots of bits out there. It looks like you might have to dip into that.
Yeah, I mean, no idea what the impact's like, to be honest. I'm more concerned, firstly, with how Sam is right now, but he got out of the car, looked so he might have been a bit winded, but looked fine. And then the next thing is the idiot who took him out, McConville, who should have retired years ago, and that shows it.
All right, thanks, Roland. Candid words. So Shane Van Gisbergen, David Couchy, the group here. Phil Keeds joined this group as well this weekend. Lots of those familiar faces that we see in the supercar paddock. Sadly, a lot of work to do in this side of the garage for the balance of the day.
Nick Percat, you would have just driven past that for your teammate that had a very bad accident just then. What was that like?
That was full on. So Tyler was behind me on road. And yeah, I don't know how myself and whoever's in the BMW, might be the Mostert BMW, missed it, because we went left thinking that the car would be still in the wall, but it came across the track, and then as it started clearing, I was just full lock turning right, and so was the BM. And then I think the mirror glanced that car that was stopped, and then I went between the wall and the BMW as he crested Skyline, and I looked in the mirror and I saw the second marked car with the wheel flying down the road, and that's Tyler's. There's honestly, I got kissed. I don't know how I missed that, and same as the BMW. And as soon as I saw Tyler in, it was like there's probably a 5% chance going to miss it. So yeah, gutted for that crew. Obviously, he's trying to get some experience around Bathurst, and it hasn't really worked out, but hopefully there's not too much damage. But when you see a wheel bouncing down Skyline, it's not positive.
Absolutely. I mean, thank God he's out of the car and he is okay. For you, Nick, you're leading class. You're actually 14th outright, and I think your first sector is like the third fastest out there. So there's some positives for your car.
Yeah, our car's been really good. It's that's the first time we put new tyres on it. We ran the whole of yesterday and this morning on the same set of tyres, so it was nice to have a bit more grip and have a bit of a crack. But yeah, it was. We're only allowed to do a 205.0, so my goal is to do a 205.000. So yeah, I think we're tracking on then. It was like the predicted lap was saying it was going to be a mid-4, so you have to start backing it off during the lap. But yeah, to be honest, the lap times are irrelevant. Hopefully Tyler's all right, and the Merc guys, and yeah, it's messy.
Absolutely. We've got the highs and lows of motorsport in this garage right now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get the other side of this one with the Lamborghini driver, Cameron McConville, tucked away in here at the moment. Can you talk us through what happened to McPhillamy?
Yeah, look, I feel sorry for Sam. He's a great guy. I honestly did not mean to touch him. I went to go under at the grade. I had my flashes on and he turned across, so I got out of it, didn't want to make contact. Then we came out of Skyline, and as I went to pull left to pass him, he just hit the brake. So at first I thought, why are you brake testing me there, you know? But I went to go right, he went right. So as I pulled left, he just touched the brakes, and unfortunately I just collected the back of him. But absolutely feel terrible for those guys. I feel sick in the stomach. I didn't mean to touch him. It was just that little dab of the brakes. As I went left, it just collected the right rear of him. So yeah, I sincerely hope he's okay.
He got out of the car. Emotions running high. He copped a bit of a spray from Roland Dane a few garages down. Do you feel like maybe you have to go and have a word with those guys?
Oh, of course. Roland's a much more powerful man than me in pit lane these days. So as I say, I'll go down and apologise sincerely. I didn't mean to touch him. I honestly didn't mean. If he hadn't touched the brakes, just as I guess I zigged, he zagged, I wouldn't have made contact. So yeah, 100% feel sorry for him. Of course, I'll go apologise, but it's one of those things, unfortunately.
Thanks for the chat, mate. Very candid as well. There's a little bit of damage to the left front of this car if we go around and check out the front splitter, but they've been able to, while racing, just patch this up with a bit of tape, so this car is good to get back out there.
Right, let's try and put this together then, gentlemen, as the sorry sight of a marked car's seeing bits of the car we're not really wanting to see. The good thing about that is a purpose-built racing car with a tube frame. So, coming over the top, the first contact is the lightest of contact that you heard Cam McConville there talking about. That sends the Bend Motorsport Park GT3 into the wall, the AMG. Then it's carnage going on behind. What it's difficult to see is the rest of the cars going through the gap because of the dust cloud. But all of the spectators know that there's something going on, and in that dust cloud, we think 3 cars at least. There's the BMW going through and got through the incident, and then there's a couple of other cars that come through, which includes Tyler Everingham.
There's no dust in the back.
Yeah, there's the BMW and the marked car coming through, and they were behind it, and then Everingham comes on the scene, and he's collected the Mercedes AMG that as it's bounced out from driver's right.
Yep, I'd agree with that. And it's caused massive, massive damage to that marked car, and it launched itself up onto the fence. So this is Tyler jumping out of the car. We can see this shot initially.
Turns it off.
As it played out, yeah.
Turns it off, does exactly the right thing. And then he extricates himself from the left-hand side of the car. And he's winded.
Yeah. Well, the real problem is it's his side of the car that's taken the pounding.
Now, here's Sam Shaheen being helped out by Dirk Muller. The 19 car has pulled up and stopped. That wasn't a part of the accident, but he would have seen the ferocity of the impact, the secondary impact between the marked cars and the already stranded Mercedes-Benz AMG. And he's stopped the car and got out. What camaraderie, what a thought from a class driver.
Memories of Shane Van Gisbergen getting out to help out Scotty McLaughlin when he was on his roof at the Gold Coast, right, last year in Supercars. did exactly the same thing, and that was bitter rivalry between Ford and Holden. Two Mercedes, I think just entirely coincidental.
And Dirk Miller was late enough on the scene behind that to stop safely and jump out of the car and render some assistance while everything else was going on. So you saw Tyler Everingham jumping out of the car, and yes, absolutely winded, and he limped away from that too. So I'd say there's a knee or an ankle that's copped a tweak during that massive impact, rattling around in amongst the pedal box. There's only so much you can do. These cars have amazing leg protection all the way down to the pedal box. Now it's almost like you're strapped into an open wheeler in a carbon fibre tub, but there's still some lateral movement when your feet bash around in an uncontrolled impact like that. That's where the wheel from the Mark car has ended up. That's the spares box dipper. That's 500 metres down the road. So it's just kept rolling down its merry way down towards the Kangaroos. Jumped out of the circuit earlier on today. Big damage to both cars, and there was some optimism about perhaps delving into the Mercedes AMG truck, but there's been a few cars drill that fence at the top at McPhillamy Park a long time, and I don't see the 777 coming back.
Well, and the problem is there's a secondary impact, and that's the scary thing. All of these cars are built to very, very high and exacting safety standards. And that is the first impact. It dissipates the energy, but then it's bounced out and being nailed by the Mark car coming through. You saw the severity of the damage on the Mark car, and just imagine how much energy that car is still carrying as it goes into that cloud of dust that's being thrown up. And then that's hit the Mercedes AMG for a second time, and that for me is why Dirk Muller has realised he's got to stop. I think that's a super piece of heads up driving in the case of pulling up and stopping in the middle of the road, and he was out so quickly to go and render assistance.
And obviously highly heated emotions in pit lane directly out of that. Oh, that car is toast. That's an enormous impact. Good luck fixing that. There'll be chassis damage all the way up, rippling up through that shell into the back corner as well. Big damage. I'm just so happy Sam is out of the car, and so too for young Tyler Everingham. Race control, Craig Baird, the driver standards advisor, will have access to the data from these cars. So heated emotions, Roland Dane was fairly firm in his comments, Cam McConville as well, both two hugely experienced and very respected guys in the paddock as well. That car's not going anywhere further either. So when cooler heads prevail, Neil, they'll jump into this after the session and try and unpick it all when they can get a look at the data from these cars.
Highly accurate comment, Rich. I think a lot of emotion running up and down here at the moment. Pet project for the Mark cars for Ryan McLeod. He's been involved in this project from day one, built a heap of cars. That was a brand new vehicle. Looks pretty second-hand now.
Yeah, brand new. Yeah, it was its first day on the track yesterday, and it's pretty toasted now, but I think it's done its job.
Yeah, it's done its job very, very well. What's the story with Tyler?
I spoke to him. He walked out of the medical car. He's in the medical centre now. He's injured his left leg. He said that he saw a big pile of dust. He's sure it was a Porsche that he hit. He was initially worried because he was behind the 91 car that it was our other car. He said that was the biggest impact, and then he sort of hit both fences from there. But the Porsche was the biggest impact.
Will you be able to turn it around?
I would say it's... I haven't seen it. We'll certainly try. That's what we do. We certainly try to get it out there. We've got a lot of bits, but yeah, hit three things like that pretty hard. It's probably doubtful.
The project's a credit to you. The cars have been going well, but that's a bit of a setback. I know you've seen it all before. You'll bounce back.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, man.
Freddie Vervies, your crew's still working very hard, but out on the pit lane to try and repair the number 2 Audi. Are they going to be able to get it out for the qualifying session before it's all said and done?
Honestly, it's unreal what the guys are doing now or trying to do. So it looks like there's a chance to repair the car. I didn't think it, so it's like we are looking now. It's crazy. So hopefully we have still a shot. Yeah.
Was there anything weird across the top of the mountain? A gust of wind or anything?
Honestly, I don't know. It just snapped out so suddenly, and I had no time to catch up the car. So as a sitting duck, I think I was lucky to hit the tire barrier and not the wall a bit later. Our sister car went off as well, but he kept it on track or kept it out of the tire stack. It's a very tricky corner, and yeah, I mean, obviously it's quite frustrating for me to see that I made this error because we have a really strong car, and but my teammates are are supporting me great, the team, and I'm really happy they take it so well.
It sounded like you were already off the throttle at the point coming across Skyline, though. I mean, there's not much else you could have done.
No, it's just it went, it snapped out. So, like you say, maybe it's a dust of wind. Maybe, I don't know, I was maybe, I don't know, a couple of inches out of the racing. I honestly, I don't know. So that's a bit worrying for the rest of the weekend, because it obviously will hurt my confidence. But yeah, I think the mission is quite clear. Try to stay on track now for the rest of the weekend, and my teammates will handle the rest.
I think you've earned some champagne. Thanks for chatting with us, Freddie.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Well, Dirk Mueller, you are a GT champion in America and Europe, but you can add a damn good sportsman as well to that. Your sportsmanship just then up at the mountain in Mount Panorama was amazing for Tyler. What did you see and what made you get out of the car?
Well, first of all, I mean, we're in qualifying, so everybody is really tensed up, right? And so I'm actually on a really good lap when I got the call in. I got the call right before I saw it on my display. So we have display in the car right now. So we see what's going on basically on track. So I got a fair bit of warning. And when I approached the top of the mountain, I saw the big mess there. And I was basically shocked, because I knew I'm not like one of the first cars. I'm like, you know, the ones from further back. And I still saw the door shut, and it was a no-brainer. I stopped the car and just ran over to see if he's all right. I mean, luckily he was moving. He's all right. He felt probably dizzy at that moment, so I helped him getting out of the car. And luckily, you know, safety of our AMGs are really, really high, and thanks to God. I mean, I just saw the incident on TV. It looked really nasty, so thanks for AMG for the safety.
Yeah, your first time here at the mountain, so all the best in the number 19.
I'm blown away. The whole thing came together really, really late. So last Saturday morning back in Europe, I got the call from Multimatic and AMG, hey, sort your flight, you have to come over. I'm like, yes, because I missed this race so much. I've never done it before. And so it's really, really good.
Fantastic.
Having Harrison Newey and Mark Ruthers with me is awesome.
Have fun, Dirk. Enjoy.
Sportsmanship of the very highest level and a camaraderie there, but then the presence of mind, guys, to look at the car, see if there's any fire, and go in there and start turning things off. It's the same model of car, so he knows where everything is there, goes to the driver's side, goes to the passenger side, and he's then even pointing to the marshals to say, guys, have a look at this, we've got fluid coming out of here, I don't want this to get any worse than it is. Had the presence of mind to do that, which, to be honest, if you've just had a crash like that, the driver coming out may not have done. Brilliant stuff from Dirk Werner.
He might have won the 2016 Le Mans 24-hour, but he's won the 2020 Good Bloke of the Year award.
Spirit of the race right there. Stop the votes right now. There's no point, because that's extraordinary presence of mind to be able to do that. Particularly, as you heard Dirk saying, when you are absolutely revved up to the max on a qualifying run, and he's on a good lap, and then he has to switch that off immediately and go into a different mode.
Interesting, gents, that he talked about a system that was introduced at this race to the Australian market for the first time 12 months ago, following a massive crash that ended the 2018 race. It ended under a red flag with about 40 minutes to go at that unsighted blind part of the racetrack. And he talked about a warning light system. Well, that was introduced to Australia for the first time at this event 12 months ago. It's back for its second year. It's basically a series of flashing lights.
Qualifying one has been converted to a time certain finish of 13:55.
So confirmation, 24 minutes left or so in the session. Call it 27. Maths isn't a strong suit. So the warning lights have done their job. That's a terrific thing. So he'll get bright red lights in front of his eyes. That's instant notification to jump out of the throttle. Safety features are doing their job and protecting other drivers.
Krause, you mentioned at the beginning of the session that all these cars are going to be full of fuel, because the fuel you carry in this session is what you carry through to the second qualifying session. Now, here's the interesting thing. They've only done between 6 and 8 laps in this session so far, because they've had so many stoppages and lengthy red flags. The cars are full of fuel still. They've got too much to what they wanted to go through to Q2. So watch how many cars get out there now and just try and burn off as much fuel. Now, remember, Johnny said it earlier, that Lamborghini's not been out yet because they didn't want to put themselves in this scenario. So when we get through to Q2, that might be the lightest car out there.
It's a very good point, Chad, actually. And all of a sudden they're looking smarter than the average, aren't they? Now, nobody's going to be optimum because you haven't been burning off the fuel in this early part of the session. You've lost 15, 20 minutes or so, but if the Lambo's starting with half a tank of fuel, or maybe even less, they know when they want to go out for a few laps at the end. They're going to be in a considerably better place than anyone else, because they simply can't, even if they sit there revving the engine in the lane, they're not going to burn off all that fuel.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to luck yourself into a good strategy at this place, which is what they've done. That's a look at the damaged Scandia Racing entry. Scandia have jumped on board big time. Australian-based log heater company. They've been involved in the sport for a while. Jumped on board this two-car program headed up by Ryan McLeod. He's actually sold the Mark Cars business. 26 cars produced now, and a close-up look at the damage inside the front of that Mercedes AMG. That is going nowhere. But just to reiterate the points, while they may be converted up from a base road car, these things are incredibly safe. All of the safety features into these cars, FIA standard race seats, roll cages, fire suppression systems, all the carbon fibre padding and all the supplemental stuff that goes on, and they've done their job and they've protected the drivers, and that is absolutely number one.
And you heard Ryan saying about the Mark cars, the car did its job, and what he means by that is it broke where it was meant to break. It's dissipated the energy of that huge impact. Exactly. Now, that car was never a road car. No. That was built as a purpose-built race car with a tube frame, effectively a huge roll cage on which panels have been hung. And that car you saw with various parts of the tubes in very unnatural angles, particularly around the front end. But again, the driver was absolutely protected and able to get out of the door opening, which had not been, there was no incursion into that door area. And we're here, by the way, that Tyler Everingham has been to the care centre here, complaining of some pain in his leg. We'll get a proper update on that when we can. But all around, in terms of the safety of the cars, they look a bit second-hand now, and we probably won't get either of them back. But, JP, that's exactly what those cars are meant to do in such big accidents.
Yeah, and safety should be the defining factor when you're designing a car. Yes, they're deliberately made to look like the road cars. I don't think there are many common components, maybe the headlights and the rear light clusters, but otherwise they're so strong, these cars, particularly the Mark machine, and it stood up to the test brilliantly well. And we wish Tyler Everingham all the best as we receive more and more news throughout the rest of the day. Mathieu Jaminet on the ragged edge, which is brave considering the amount of coolant that will have been spilt at Brock Skyline. The marshals, I'm sure, have done a good job in soaking that up, but he's just about one of the first guinea pigs out there to test the grip.
Yeah, and driving just on your fingertips across the top just to get a really good idea of where it's at. And now a couple of laps to get the Pirelli DHD2 control tyre, the whole field using it. They get 12 brand new tyres to use across the course of the weekend. No previously marked tyres or tyre bank rubber. It's brand new, 12 sets for every car across the board.
And when does that start? From free practice one?
That's from free practice one, 100%. 12 new sets of tyres.
That's not a lot of rubber for a 12, and that goes into the race as well, of course.
48 tyres. Yeah, 12 sets, 12 times 4. Yeah, not a lot of tyres.
So you're not going to be able to put a brand new set on every time you come to the lane during the race on Sunday?
Well, it depends how you play out your weekend. You might use the same set of tyres over a couple of practice sessions or one set of tyres in qualifying, which is unlikely. The other thing to touch on with that is that this is not a high circuit in terms of tyre degradation. And last year, we were quite surprised. Last year was the first year we used this compound tyre. There were some teams triple stinting their tyres, almost 3 hours on a single set of tyres. They weren't brilliant at the end of that stint, but from a strategic point of view, it worked for the motor race.
So it's Nismo Nissan GTR at the top of the timing and scoring at the moment with a 2:04.547. Then Chaz Mostert in the BMW M6 GT3, the number 34 car. Then the first of the Audis, Kelvin van der Linde, the 2:22. They're split by just half a second at the top of the timing and scoring serial there on the left-hand side of your picture. The best of the Mark IIs, that's the invitational class, and remember this is their one and only qualifying, is in 12th position, and that's the Nick Percat, number 91, and a very competitive time for that. He can't get into the top 10 shootout because he's not in the next prod.
No,
so
exactly
he doesn't advance before anybody asks. They're done and done at the end of the next 18 minutes. So I'm sure people will be looking at that inside the top 10 at the moment. No, just put that out of your mind at the moment. It's only for the GT3 cars, and that will come. We will split off the top 10 at the end of the next session.
Yeah, times are cleared from this one for the GT3 cars. It's only GT4, the invitational class, the group to be set from this session. Kelvin van der Linde, very, very fast South African driver. He's a superstar from his part of the world, and a range of young drivers coming out of that part of the world now on the international motorsport scene. We've got Jordan Pepper here as well. Gennaro Bonafiti's another one who's done some stuff with BMW. The van der Linde family, well known in that part of the world. He started racing. He came into the landscape in the Audi TT Cup in Germany and the Volkswagen Scirocco Cup before it. So he's been in the family a long time. He's now a factory driver. Very, very good at it as well.
A perfect shot to show that we have a bit of a patchy cloud coming across the track at the moment. I think, John, I heard you say in the live stream, it's Simpsons cloud covered this week, and we've got a little bit of that right now. So if we do get some shadows out there, we should see quicker track times out there. We currently have 37.5 ambient. You guys want to take a shot at what the track temp might be right now?
I will put my bid in, Chad, at 50.5.
It's actually lower than that, 46.8. Oh, yeah, we're getting full prices right.
Yeah, absolutely.
46.8 degrees is still a very balmy track temp.
Yeah, the temp is right as far as that's concerned. Good stuff from Chad, because that is what the teams will be looking at, and it is part of the unique nature of Bathurst, which is different from any other racetrack in so many different ways. It's not just about the mountain, but this track surface, and even since it's been relayed, Quilsey, you've made the point several times during our audio broadcast on Friday, but it's true, and we've seen it year after year. A degree here, a degree there, a little bit of cloud cover, and all of a sudden the grip just goes up exponentially, and the times can come down half a second, 8/10. It's an extraordinary difference.
Yeah, you want that in the shootout. A little bit of cloud cover for your lap in the shootout. You're very happy. If you get bright sunshine, could be the difference between P1 and P6 perhaps. Work going on car number 2, crashed by Fred Vervish early on. They've got the string line out, so they're already at the point of setting the wheel alignment, basically.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Toe in, toe out, camber adjustment, making sure everything's square before they send it out. Huge effort. Work would have to stop in 15 minutes, because at the end of 15 minutes, the cars are in park remain. You're not allowed to work on them, except for changing tyres between quali 1 and quali 2. But they will blaze away and try and get that car back out on track for the next qualifying session. At least get them a shout of getting into the Pirelli shootout later on today.
Alvaro Perret coming down in the McLaren. Great to see them back in that new car into the chase now. At the top of the timing screens, Raffaele Marciello's back at it again. 204.50. So he's a fraction of a second, 0.0409, if you want to write that down. Ahead of the field, led by Jeppe de Oliveira in that number 18 KCMG Nissan GTR. So things starting to heat up again. Everybody out there at the moment, JP, they will be telling the drivers, full reach, turn the mat right up, burn fuel, just burn fuel. I'm not really bothered about your lap times if you're in a Class A car, just burn fuel.
Qualifying has turned into a motor race, really, hasn't it? It's about pace, and it's about churning out these laps as quickly as possible so that you're in the best spot for later on when it really matters. But it's a kind of crazy scenario. I like it, though, and it's, you know, that's how the regulations have been written. Not necessarily expecting a red flag halfway through this session, but that's what we've got.
Raffaele Marciello's on a really good lap at the moment, 50.6 to the first sector, 31.9 across the top is fast. That's the second intermediate. It's split between just before Reed Park is the timing intermediate, and then just on the exit of Forest Elbow at the top of Conrod. He's on a good lap. Purple means best of the session. And this guy did a lot of purple at Mount Panorama 12 months ago. Did some of it in the race, which was pretty extraordinary stuff. Let's follow the lap down. He's got an Audi R8 with Christopher Meese just in front. That won't affect him too much. Final sector looked pretty straightforward. Traffic at the end. Is it an improvement? It is, by a big margin.
Wow.
Pulls a second out of everybody, 2:03.64. Good lap.
So 8/10 better than his previous, and what have we got? We've got a little bit of cloud cover. So when we were talking about that, and you guys were saying, we were talking about that, we said it might be worth 8/10, and I'm sure people at home will go, no, don't be. It's just the unique nature of this place. Something else to note as well, guys, by the way, while some guys are out there, some cars, including Kelvin van der Linde, already done a dozen laps. Mathieu Jaminet in the 911 Porsche has done 13 laps. Marco Mappelli has just gone out in the Lamborghini Huracan number 63, which was sitting on pit lane. We think without a full tank of fuel, he's just done his first lap.
The plan has changed at Earl Bamber Motorsports. We were told that Craig Lowndes would drive this session, and that would be Larry for the A-only session coming up next. Well, they've decided that there's a little too much fuel in the car, so let's stick Larry in, see what fast lap times he can do, and tell him to go map 1. It's full qualifying time now for the number 1 car.
Probably not worth it.
Yeehaw, I say. Let's see how fast it can go with one of the best in the business, the Belgian, who was on pole here several years ago in an Audi, now Porsche bound. Very good at it too.
And remember, Rich, what we've been saying about Bamthor, Earl Bamber and Lawrence Vantour in the American series in which they race the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. It is Larry that is the qualifying specialist. He did it all of last year en route to the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championship for Porsche. He set the car up the way he wanted it to do the fast lap in qualifying. So he's out there now. We always thought he would qualify. He is going to qualify, but he's out there getting even more feel than perhaps he thought he was going to, and he will be absolutely ragging that car across the top and everywhere around Mount Panorama.
I'm completely okay with that. That's fine for my Saturday afternoon.
I'm Richard Trail, and I approve this
I endorse this tactic. Just saw Marvin Kirchhoffer come into pit lane in the number 62 car from R Motorsport. That's the livery that was on the car in the thick of the action here 12 months ago. Jake Dennis, who drove it so superbly, is now in the Castrol back car with Rick Kelly and Scott Dixon. Right, Lambo time. Approaching a Nissan GTR at a great pace across the top of Mount Panorama and bottled in behind, so this lap won't be worth too much for young Marco Mappelli. I don't think the GTR could see the Lambo out the rear mirror on that car. It's just all rear wing, and the Lambo's so low compared to the GTR, which has always been the biggest, most, not ungamely, just physically large GT3 car. It's up there with the Bentley.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could even see him coming.
Speaking of which, the Bostick Audi almost showing room for the 59 McLaren, but then thinking better of it, heading to the fastest part of the circuit now as well, the entrance to the chase, and really, that McLaren, with Dominic Story at the wheel, wanting to get by for track position, but has to back off and allow the Bostick Audi away into the distance.
Well, this is another interesting story that will affect the Pro, or the Class A qualifying session, Quali 2, that's coming up very, very shortly, is that Dom Story is in a silver class car. But, and we've talked about it all weekend and written about it all weekend, it's only class in name only. It's not a car performance differentiator between the GT3 cars. It's purely down to the drivers you've got. If you've got one absolutely brilliant Gunworks driver in your car, it can make the shootout. It can qualify on pole. It doesn't matter if it's Pro Class, it doesn't matter if it's Pro-Am, or if it's silver. So Dom Story is in silver class, 5th outright in the number 59 McLaren 720. There'll be more of those.
Yes.
The fastest Porsche all weekend so far has been Ben Barker in the Pro-Am Grove Group Porsche. And I'm almost convinced that they'll be in the shootout because they've just been so fast in every session so far. Here's Van der Linde. This has been a very good lap. Middle sector, fastest of anybody in the session so far. He's on course for a personal best. Is it session best? Well, it is for the car. Not for P1 though. P2 stays where he is. Still 6/10 of a second behind Raffaele Marciello. A very good lap in the Mercedes AMG.
And just because you mentioned Ben Barker, Benjamin, to give him his full title, that's number 4 Grove racing car, the Porsche, the red and white machine, 16th at the moment in the pits, best time of 2:05.8. At this point, that's not important, because remember, this is effectively a practice session for the cars at the front of the field, who will go on into qualifying 2, and that's where we'll set the benchmark and find out who are in the Pirelli top 10 later on this afternoon.
Wow.
Ah, this is brilliant news. What a fantastic job. All right, helped by the fact we had a red flag, yes, and they used that time, but I, talked to people right up to including, if we're talking Audi, Ryan Holdsworth once said to me at Road Atlanta, for a Petit Le Mans, I'd rather be lucky than good. He was rather quite a lot of both of those. And they've made that, they've turned it around, Rich, and they didn't skimp on anything. That we saw them stringing it up to get it right. It'll be a couple of laps probably just to make sure everything's bolted together. Then it'll be a phone call to the driver and how are you doing? And then, right, well, let's have a go, shall we?
That's fantastic. I love professional racing car teams. When they get down to business, fixing a racing car that they know can be fixed, there's nothing better to watch. They are just extraordinary, and well done, Audi Custom Sport Racing Australia. Car 2's back on the road. Have they put Fred Vervief back in? Get back on the horse straight away?
I would think almost certainly, yes. Fred Vervief is out. 21st position for that car as it stands at the moment. 2:06.0, the best time alongside it. That will change.
We're watching Nick Percat, Johnny, and you and I have just looked at the timing monitor and gone,
yeah,
interesting, because Nick's done a 2:04.85 in this car, and he's not allowed to do that.
No, but he put him in a great position when he did it, 7th place. But yes, you're right, there's a kind of delta time that Nick's got to stick to, and that therefore will have to be deleted. Will there be a penalty he's got to cop as well?
No, in qualifying, the time is just deleted, and whatever he set prior to that will revert. We saw this 12 months ago, the team did the same thing.
He's just having a bit of fun right now. Right. This is how fast I can go.
Exactly right. So that time will be deleted inevitably. Nick's just having a bit of a go in the Scandinavian.
He's just improved again. He's just improved again, hasn't he? He's just done a 4.8. Fantastic.
Raffaele Marciello, anytime you get to come to the mountain, you go quickly, and once again, top of the charts, but there's still time left in the session. Why is your car on the pit lane?
Because at the end, the track will get always a bit better. Let's say for the shootout at the end is about Q2. So, I mean, we had a good clean run. There is no point to waste another set or to go on track, and we just, now wait the Q2 and then we'll go out again.
So we get to see more magic in Q2.
Yeah, we have to, so yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We have to have more magic. That's qualifying, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm contractually obliged to produce it, says Mello.
Line 2 in the contract signed by M Sport.
Oh, we've already seen plenty of it.
Bunch of flowers.
There we are.
Just pull something out. 7. Bentley laying down some Pirelli rubber coming out of the Maguire's Forest elbow and down, letting that big Continental GT Coupe run down Conrod and in towards the chase. Listen to the engine. Not a hint of a lift there, was there?
Well, it's not.
You would have thought he was driving on a straight piece of road there.
It's not even the lift at the chase that I listen for these days with these cars. It's how deep they go up because of the braking point. And he was on the pedal at the 100-metre board.
And remember, that was when his teammate found out, oh, I've got no stopping. There's no retardation from this pedal. And well done to Ollie Jarvis to mitigate that and drove the car onto the infield, stuck it sideways, trying to scrub off a little bit of speed. Super dry, by the way, around here. And if it does rain on Sunday, there'll be a lot of people around here who'll be very happy to see that. But that did mean that he got a bit of traction on the hard earth underneath the grass. That would have definitely been a turning wicket on day 4, I think, the way things are here at the moment.
24th at the moment, the Bentleys, trying to string some laps together. Jules Gunon, times Mount Panorama got some experience. 3.5 minutes to go in the session, so there's still time. A lot of the fastest cars, those in the top 10 at least, are now sitting in pit lane, and you heard from Raffaele Marciello, the fastest driver in the 999 Group M Racing entry. Kirchhoffer takes the 62 Motorsport Aston Martin into the top 6. That's a very good lap, and that's the fastest that car's gone relative to everybody else all weekend long. So our Motorsport have got 2 bullets in the gun this weekend, JP, don't they? Because the Jake Dennis, Rick Kelly, Scott Dixon car will be very good as well. They're 15th. They came here with an outright car last year and had a really good shot at winning. Done it again so far, and that Aston Martin team really impressive.
I think for obvious reasons, it's the 76 that's grabbing all the headlines and the attention right now, but that might play into the favour of the 62 crew. I'm looking forward to seeing how Ollie Caldwell gets on. We've already spoken about one 17-year-old, Brock Sweeney, taking part in this race. Well, only by a matter of months, he's younger than Ollie Caldwell, the Englishman, who's also 17.
We've been mentioning, guys, the invitational class with that Mark Car up inside the top 10, although Nick Percat's time of 2:04.855 won't stand. It'll revert to his 2:05 and not very much, which will put him just outside the top 10, but he'll get pole position in invitational. In GT4 at the moment, the Strom Jorgensen BMW M4 GT4, Brett Strom just brought that car in a wee while ago, 2:16.8 against Dirk Muller. Remember, the number 19 car, that car was pulled up in that first incident. Well, Dirk has put in a time of 2:17.42, so it's BMW ahead of AMG GT4, and the significance of that, Grilsey, is this next 2 minutes is the end for them. So that's their grid, if you will, that set and pole position to the Jorgensen Strom guys.
And I tell you what, that's the closest they've been all weekend. And you only need 2 cars to have a really good motor race. So GT4, there's a BMW and a Mercedes AMG that are now very, very evenly matched. That's going to be a story to follow across 12 hours of motor racing tomorrow.
188, Aston coming down to Liqui Moly, Murray's corner. And that is Com Ledegaard, 12th position for the metallic blue and white Aston. The Vantage now with the V8 twin turbo engine.
The Astons are creeping up on it, both the Garage 59 cars and the R Motorsport entry. So there's 4 of the brand new AMR entries here at Mount Panorama, and all 4 of them working their way up towards the top 10. Someone accustomed to being in the 10 here is Lee Holdsworth. He's behind the wheel of the Hallmark Property Group Audi R8 LMS. Currently scored in 25th position at a 2:06.014. Teaming up with his old mate Mark Sini, Dean Fiore, once again staple at this motor race. Mark's a great guy, spent his year in Pro-Am in Porsche Super Cup last year. And Holdsworth continues to apply his trade in Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. So the clock's counting down, and part 1 of qualifying elongated as it is after a lengthy red flag with that massive impact at the top of Mount Panorama. We move forward to a shorter, punchy 30-minute session. Just the Class A cars on the racetrack. And a lot of excitement to come to work out who gets in to the Pirelli Shootout later on this afternoon. That one famous lap of Mount Panorama on a Saturday afternoon. It doesn't matter if it's in February or October. It's really, really special. It's not often you get this place to yourself, and the 10 drivers that are privileged enough to do it will absolutely love it.
Lifting wheels on the 29 Lamborghini. That's Dean Cantor, one of the silver class cars. This is the yellow and black, the Bumblebee colours, if you will. And heading up, he's leaving absolutely nothing out there at the moment. Dean Cantor knows his way around here, of course. And he has got a clear track, Grilsey. It's not the Pirelli Top 10 Shootout, but Dino is doing a cracking job through the Maguire's Forest elbow and down onto Conrod.
And even though the checkered flag's out, you can complete your lap. So if he feels like this lap is worthy of some improvement, he can continue on. Bad lap time so far for Dino. 51.6 to the first sector, 32.8. The best so far from the Trofeo Motorsport Lamborghini is a 2:06.42. They've elected to keep this car in the 2018 spec. The Royal Racing entry, we saw Cameron McConville before, has been upgraded to the full current Evo specification, the same as the FFF Racing Lambo that Marco Mappelli currently has 4th. And Jules Gounon on a lap as well in the Bentley, trying to drag it a little bit further up the order, up to 17th at the moment, the 2:05.57. This field's condensing, JP. Less than 2 seconds now covering the top 20. It's only going to get closer.
And just into the top 20, Freddie Favish in the rapidly repaired Audi, I noticed. So 2:05.627 from the Belgian puts him 19th. And going to cut that lap short, Jules Gounon in the number 7 Bentley. But finally, a bit of mileage for that car. Sadly, the number 8 is getting rebuilt after a dramatic-looking crash from Oliver Jarvis in practice early this morning.
Well, that was eventful, wasn't it? And not necessarily in the right way. Here's how it stands at the end of Quali 1. Remember, we'll see all of the GT3, the Class A cars again for their knockout session. The people who have completed includes that number 91 in 16th. Nick Percat will be on the pole for invitational class. And as we head through the rest of the times, at the bottom end of the field, the 2 GT4 cars, they've set their times as well. They'll take no further part, 0.6 of a second between them. And the honours for GT4 pole going to BMW ahead of their rivals Mercedes.
Well, the big story of qualifying was this part of the world at the very top of Mount Panorama. It's the best view generally here, but not when you're in a race car doing things like this. Fred Mavish had a massive moment. The car snapped at high speed and it ended up parked in the tyre barrier. He tried to drive it back. He asked, he pleaded the officials. They would let him. In the end, it didn't matter because they got it back out onto the racetrack. He was able to get that car some laps and get it right for Class A qualifying. That was the first red flag. Then this, controversial, heated opinions about this in pit lane afterwards. McConville in the Lambo, Sam Shahin in the AMG, into the fence hard, and through all of that came young Tyler Everingham in the Scandia Racing Mark Cars entry hard into the fence. Fortunately, both drivers clambering out of their car, Sam Shahin with the assistance of Dirk Muller in the GT4 car. We then finally got some running. The session was extended and it was good. Cars were going quickly. And Raffaele Marciello in the end, as he was last year, fast over 1 lap at Mount Panorama. The Gruppa M Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 203.64, fastest in quali so far.
Alvaro Parent, you've got to be happy with the top 3 at the end of the busy qualifying. Now it gets down to business. You're going to get back in the car for this?
Yeah, I hope so. Now getting back in the car for this. At the moment, I think this next session, well, it depends because it's so hot, but I think this next session is going to go a bit quicker. So we'll see where we are there. It's looking good. We've got a good setup here going on. The car's feeling okay. And let's see what we can do in this next session.
2016 winner, you got a lot of people cheering for you. Good luck.
No, it's great. Yeah, some of the guys bringing the car that we won the race in 2016, so it's great to be back.
First in GT4s in the C-Class here, number 13 for the BMW. Congratulations, Brett Strom. Excellent, excellent times.
Thank you. Yeah, our BMW is really good this year. It's we've been working on the setup. This is our 3rd time here, 3rd year in a row, so we're really happy with the way it's handling this time, and BMW's, the M4 is really just amazing around this track. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
We came second this time last year at the 12 hour, so bridesmaid ready to be the bride, potentially.
Yeah, for sure. We were catching the leader last year, and it was, if we had like 3 more laps, I think we would have gotten it. But yeah, this year I'd like to stay in front.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it tomorrow. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Top of the silver class, Dom Story, great lap from you, 7th outright, and a 204.7, your quickest ever lap here at Mount Panorama. How cool is that?
Yeah, no, it was a good session. You know, the Boost Mobile McLaren was hooked up. It's the first time we've actually had a good crack this weekend. So yeah, I mean, there's room for improvement as always, but we'll see how we go in the actual you know, A-class qualifying coming up shortly. So,
any chance of parking this thing in the Pirelli shootout?
That's the goal for sure. But you know, the speed that we've attracted so far and the potential that's still in it. There's every opportunity, but we'll just see what happens when we get out there next. There's a lot of people making mistakes. There's a lot of people coming across traffic, so just got to, you know, find the right space on track, get the clear lap in, and then hopefully, you know, we're in the 10. But you know, I'll be happy somewhere, you know, up in that top sort of 10 to 15 cars. But at the moment, it's looking really promising.
Nice job, mate.
Thank you.
But it's not all over and done with this afternoon by any stretch of the imagination. Still to come, Pirelli top 10 shootout. Before that, we've got to work out who's in that as the action from Mount Panorama here at Bathurst continues. down on the... lots of work to go on down on the pit lane for a couple of the teams there. They're going to be well employed over the next couple of hours or so.
Yeah, really impressed with Audi Sport Team Valvoline to get Freddie Vervish back in the session. I just wonder whether that was a bit of a quick fix, actually, and they'll have, well, they won't have much more time to address the further issues. And then everybody kind of was on the back foot because they were having to circulate as quickly as possible to burn off the fuel. Some very, very badly damaged cars involved in the Pertec Skyline incident, of course, with the Mercedes of Shaheen going in very heavily and then getting further collected by Tyler Everingham in his Mark car. And we know that he's gone back to the medical centre for a full appraisal. So it's a tricky session, not least if you're directly involved, but also because there was no rhythm for anybody else.
Well, that's a very good point. And rhythm and this place are two words, Richard Creel, that go together like fish and chips. If you don't have the rhythm of this place, you don't have this place.
Now you've mentioned fish and chips, I'm really hungry. I can't
You're
wait
so
till the end of
suggestible,
qualifying. I know.
Realty.
No, you're right, 100%. That was a fascinating session. We talked in the broadcast about Dirk Muller winning Sportsman of the Year award. That was a really great interview. He's just fully embraced this place. He's a guy that's raced at the very highest level. But when the mountain calls, even if it's a GT4 car in a two-car class, you still answer that call and you get down here, and he's fully embraced it. I think the next 30 minutes to come could be the most exciting until we get to hour 11 of the race tomorrow, because the intensity that we saw 12 months ago to make the top 10 shootout was just extraordinary. And with the depth of competition that we've got, I'm convinced that we're about to see that again in front of a hot but very good crowd here at Mount Panorama today, watching from all of the various vantage points around the circuit.
What has really struck me again this year is the depth of knowledge, JP, of the fans here at Bathurst and Mount Panorama. We met some of them last night with our usual collective meet-up. The guys from Travel Destinations are here in the vendor row as well. And I do love to have a chat with anybody about motor racing, and it's impossible not to do so when you're here at the mountain.
Bathurst is, of course, famous all over the world. It is the oldest inland colonial settlement in Australia, home to more than 42,000 residents, and has some of the best food and wine on offer in Australia. And after a brutal qualifying one session, Neil Crompton, I tell you what, there are one or two gentlemen that need a beautiful craft beer after that. That was just intense.
Extraordinarily wild session, typical of what we see at the top of the mountain, where there's a variance of speed between competitors. It's blind over there. We talk about it year on year in the 12-hour and in the 1,000k race. I've got a quick update in terms of the medical in relation to Sam Shaheen via a friend, a mutual friend of ours. He's still in medical at the moment. They're trying to arrange a CT scan or an MRI scan. They're going to try and do it at Orange Hospital. So I suspect he's in a bit of pain there at the moment, but here's hoping. We did see him get out of the car, so there's an update on Sam.
Tyler Everingham also still getting medical checks as well, so our best to those gentlemen in their recovery. So, on offer, a place in the top 10 shootout. Let's get to our commentators. This is qualifying 2.
Thanks, guys. Now, what's the tactic here? Now,
it's a Porsche Carrera Cup race all of a sudden.
It's the Porsche Platz, yes, absolutely. Johnny Palmer and Richard Creel alongside me, John Hind, up here in our broadcast centre, just beyond the Liqui Moly Bridge and the start-finish line. Now, we know, gentlemen, that this is not where these drivers and teams wanted to be in terms of their setup, because they will not have burned the fuel, Rich, that they wanted to in that truncated session. How far away are they? We don't know. Has that Lamborghini, the 63 Triple F car, played an absolute blinder, intentionally or otherwise, and sits there with a quarter of a tank of fuel and says, I can do 5 really quick laps on this and I can bang them in when I want to, so I can have a look at the weather?
I think the fuel thing's okay in the end, because the session they did extend it as long as they possibly could. So 45 minutes on the clock to start with. It ended up going an hour and 15, including that red flag break. So I'd say they probably got 90% of all the running they were going to get. So if they are still a bit heavy on fuel, it's not going to make an enormous amount of difference. A little bit, possibly, I'm not convinced it's going to be a huge factor. What's the plan for this session? Well, at the end of it, when the checkered flag drops and every car's crossed the line, you want to be 10th or better. Yeah. Otherwise, you're starting 11th or back for the 12-hour tomorrow morning. It's really quite simple, but the way to get there is quite difficult because it takes a couple of runs to build up to that. And 12 months ago, we saw this session broken in two. It was almost two 15-minute qualifying sessions. They all ran early, they hit a lap time, they got a banker lap or two in, then they went back into the lane and either repressured or put brand new Pirelli tyres on, went again, and then pole position, or provisional pole as it is, changes hands several times after the checkered flag, inevitably. And then we watch 7th through about 15th to see who's on the bump zone to get into the Pirelli shootout later on today. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and we'll probably, indeed, yeah. Thanks for that, Rich. We may well get a dominant time out front, but it's going to be all about that lower order portion of the top 10, as you say, and who's on the bubble and who's likely to fall out. And that's the beauty of the top 10 shootout. You know, the shootout itself is very enjoyable about 5 o'clock tonight, but who's going to make it?
Just an update on Tyler as well from the number 92 Mark II car. We found out he has been taken into town in Bathurst to be checked up, have some x-rays at the hospital, and we'll be updated soon that he's okay. Really tough day for the Super 2 2019 winner, and we hope he's okay. The team were hoping to take this brand new car to Italy, but they've been told to not even look at the car to upset themselves at the moment. They are just hoping that Tyler's okay, and they'll deal with the rest later.
Which I think is a very smart thing to do. And let's not read too much into any of that. That's absolutely standard operational procedure. Again, great stuff by the officials and by the medics here at the circuit. We'll update you when we can once we've got something official, whilst we might always want to generate a bit of chat and speculation about certain things when it comes to the condition of drivers. That's never an option.
So the next question that we need to ask ourselves is, what's the lap time? What's the time you're going to need to do? A, to be fastest in this session, and B, to get yourself into the top 10. So for reference, what we saw in qualifying one just before was a quick lap, 2:03.64 of Raffaele Marciello. 12 months ago, there was between a 6 to 8 tenths improvement from qualifying one to qualifying two. So if we work on that basis, you're going to be in the twos. In my mind at the moment, it's a 2.8, it's a 2.7, because it's so hot, the conditions as they are. I think a 2.8 or a 2.7 is your money lap, maybe a 3.0 to get into the shootout, something along those lines. We'll crunch the numbers, we'll keep working, we'll see what the lap times are. They may go quicker.
I think we're going to see top 15 cars in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And what happens between positions 8 and 15, maybe even 8 and 20, is going to be very interesting to me, and that's where we're going to watch. Don't forget, you get nothing for being first, JP, at the fastest time in this session. It just puts you in to the Pirelli shootout. Now, you can see you've got an advantage of going last in Pirelli shootout, but there's no prizes for being first here. And do you want to go first?
You are basically qualifying to be entered into the next contest.
Yeah.
It's not about grid position for the top 10. That's to be decided later on. So yeah, how much risk are you going to take? But as you say, the spread of times is going to be so narrow. You don't want to leave it to be a guessing game towards the end.
Well, they've already just about matched the time they did in qualifying one. So Kelvin van der Linde, on his first flying laps, punched out a 3.6. So I reckon I could be a second off the pace in my predictions. We'll follow it for you. I like to under-promise and over-deliver.
I've heard that about you. So if you qualify with the top time here and get yourself in the top 10, you will go last in the Pirelli top 10 shootout. So at least you know what you've got, what the par score is. If it's like batting second in the Big Bash, right? That's what we're talking about. You know what you're going after. And is that the best thing? Does it make you overdrive? You know, would you rather be going qualifying 10th and going out first and just saying, here, I'm going to go out there, come and chase me?
I think history will show that running last, while it might not always be the route to pole position, I think it's the best way. It's certainly the most dramatic. Makes for the best show. That's what we're after. So Kelvin van der Linde fastest. Maro Engel has gone second. It's a familiar name to fans of endurance racing at Mount Panorama, both in February and indeed in the supercars in October. JP de Oliveira's third in the Nissan. Laurent Van Thor fourth in the Porsche. 4 different brands in the top 4. 5 in the 5 because Jules Gounon was there. He's been bumped by an Aston Martin. Jake Dennis has gone 5th. 23 minutes to go. the session's going to be like this pretty much the whole way through.
And just again, it's all on this session. Last session's times count for naught. We've wiped the slate clean, off we go.
Which seems kind of cruel, doesn't it? Because you go to all that work, you sit through a long red flag, you do this amazing lap time, and all of a sudden it means absolutely nothing, and you wipe the slate clean and start again.
Yeah, but there is meaningful value within it, because it's a question of how much fuel you can burn off, and also you've got to survive it. I mean, it's surviving a 45-minute session, which a couple of them haven't done so far.
There's nothing to say you had to go out in that session.
Well, as a Lamborghini.
You know, the Lamborghini left it till late. They would have probably left it even later. But, you know, you could have toddled around just to see what it was like, maybe do a couple of laps to scrub the Pirelli tyres in, get a heat cycle through them before you came back around.
Have you had a look at the totem on the left-hand side of the screen there? The driving talent on the racetrack at the moment is quite extraordinary. Wall, off the wall, in the wall.
Oh, again.
At the top of the
Same
mountain.
spot.
It's big, it's a bit further around. That's just on the entry to McPhillamy Park, so it's missed the gravel trap. It's a big crash, though. Already some debris. And through the dust cloud, we can't see who it is. It's the Aston Martin 62.
Yep.
And it's gone in big. That is a massive crash for our motorsport.
And once again, we've got drivers stopping next to the car. That has been a huge incident. The red flags are out. There's steam coming out. There's a thumbs up from the first of the marshals to get there, and that's great stuff. The door is off its hinges, and it's the...
Out of the Honda.
Out of the Honda.
It's Marvin Kirchhoffer behind the wheel. He was driving in the practice session earlier on.
So that's Renger van der Zande, I reckon.
I thought that was Renger's helmet with the very yellow. Kirchhoffer out of the car, steps out of what is left of the car. We've got the suicide door.
Yeah.
We've got a suicide door, effectively.
Because it's still latched, and the hinges have gone. So that's how...
He's walking away.
Kirchhoffer's got out, but testament to how strong these cars are. That's just absolutely phenomenal. So I kind of don't want to watch this next bit.
Take a deep breath, everybody. He's absolutely committed. He hits the wall, first of all, on the right-hand side, and that breaks the steering. And from that moment on, Kirchhoffer is a passenger, gets airborne, and almost does roll over.
That went over.
I think that went over, Krillsy, yeah. I think that's gone over. It almost went over front over back, but then actually did roll laterally. It's quite a big hit on the right front at the metal grate.
That's what did the damage.
Yeah, he's got no steering.
Whether it broke anything or not there is probably irrelevant, because the car was massively unloaded at that point, and it's just fired it off the road. That contact at the metal grate, so it's backed in hard. It swung the car around. Look at the rear screen bouncing up into the power lines.
Yeah, wheels going all over the place.
Debris fencing doing its job, which is only a recent installation up there a couple of years ago. And then check this out. It'll ride the fence, Tony Hawk skateboarding style.
Almost going over.
This is the point where it tips.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of motor racing at Mount Panorama, and I've never seen that there before. That is a ginormous impact. And once again, the driver walks away.
Gets really close to the marshal post there as well, and the guy waving the yellow flag literally had to haul back the flag just in time as the car came streaming by. That's horrible to watch. The team high-fiving down there. They know their weekend is done.
Now, I am sure, in fact, it's already started, people on social media saying, you can't win the race on Sunday if you stick it in the wall on Saturday. These guys are pressing for qualifying to get in the Pirelli top 10 shootout. This race has never been won from further back than the
7th,
the inside of the 4th row, and you can't leave anything out there. This is qualifying to get into the Pirelli top 10 shootout, and it's going to be super competitive. Awful sounds of the dull thud of carbon fibre steel and other exotic materials being reduced, and that Aston being reduced to its component parts. The wing mirror just about stays on. The right rear is broken.
It's still steering. He dialed in some opposite lock as quickly as he could, but certainly that impact at the metal grate slightly too wide, and we've seen even his teammate Scott Dixon had a very close moment there earlier today in practice 3, just brushed the wall, not quite so hard. But the secondary impact after that, it backed itself into the fence and then how it lifted itself up, quite extraordinary.
Yeah, the front nearly comes up and over. It's the wall that keeps it down, and then it goes into a lateral roll before ending back up on, well, I was going to say its wheels, some of its wheels, and certainly the belly of the car further down the track. And once again, our track services and clean-up crew are going to work. They were there very quickly. And again, kudos to the other drivers for A, avoiding that, and B, being concerned enough to pull over.
Wolfgang, the hard-working PR down there at our Motorsport, they put a lot of energy into this race, into bringing people down and activating their media and their sponsors. Very professional outfit from Switzerland, and they're very passionate about their motorsport, and indeed coming back to make up for that agonising loss here 12 months ago. And once again, our hard-working volunteer officials have to go to work. So it's been a bruising weekend at Mount Panorama, and it actually started on Friday, as it often does here in the early practice session. And it was a crash for the number 35 KCMG Nissan. Josh Burden was behind the wheel at the time. The track was very dirty, oil down from earlier support categories as well, hard into the wall at BP Ultimate Reed Park. That set off a chain of events that continued on to practice this morning.
Ollie Jarvis with a frightening moment heading into the chase and having to throw the car into a deliberate slide, I think, and then slap the barrier. Watching the replay later on, he really wished he'd done something else, but I don't think he could have done, considered it during the time he had at his disposal.
And then it was the top of the mountain. Was it the following wind? Was it people pushing too hard? But a series of events for a number of different manufacturers, including Frederick Vervisch in the Valvoline Audi, and heading the wall hard enough to break the steering. His team did a cracking job of getting that car back out, so the number 2 car did live again and came out. It wasn't the same story later on.
And this was massive. Midway through the opening qualifying session, contact Lambo, contact AMG hard into the fence, and then collateral damage as well with the Mark car. Check this out in the background, another car up into the wall and almost over it, Tyler Everingham. And fortunately, both drivers were able to hobble away from those respective accidents. And then this, Marvin Kirchhoffer hard into the fence, just past Reed Park, before you get to McPhillamy, hard into the wall, and ultimately the car tips over. But another driver able to walk away from a monumental one here at Mount Panorama.
We've seen plenty of acts of sportsmanship today. Ringo van der Zande, first car on the scene and pulling over to help. What did you see when you pulled up?
I just saw parts, dust, everything, and when I slowed down to first gear or less than first gear, and I looked on the right, and this whole side of the car was broken and destroyed, and I saw him hanging like this. So I thought, this is not good. And you know, we've all been in accidents, and the first thing you want is to see someone that you know. And I thought, you know, just jump out and see what it's like and help him to get out of the door, because the door was stuck, everything was destroyed. But he straight away said he looked very dizzy, but he was okay. So I think he jumped out by himself after that. I just helped him to get the door out of the way. But I mean, it's crazy how many accidents there are, and I think it's kind of stupid as well to push so hard. It's a 12-hour race, and I think we need to calm down a little bit and see how we can bring it from the 6-hour mark and not the 0-hour mark. So I hope tomorrow at the start they will take it easy as well. It's dark, it's gonna be chaos, and stay calm, everyone.
Thanks, Ringo.
Jake Dennis, it has to be difficult to see the car that you put on pole last year causing a red flag during the final qualifying opportunity. But in your point of view, how hard is it out there? How hard are you guys pushing?
Well, we're pushing flat out, you know. We're here to do a job. God, that delay is really off-putting. Yeah, there's only one thing on my mind right now, and that's Marvin, you know. I haven't seen the crash. I don't want to see the crash. I've got to go back out there now and do the job for the team. I managed to do a mega lap. We're up to 6th. But yeah, the car's difficult to drive, as you probably saw. But you know, we're pushing so hard, and it's what we love. It's what we do. And yeah, it can bite us quite hard. But the main thing is he's fine, and yeah, he's coming back to us.
Thanks, Dennis.
Cheers.
Well, Jake Dennis there down in the R Motorsport machine, at the R Motorsport garage rather. Always difficult to clear your mind, and I think he's done exactly the right thing. Johnny, you said it, I'm not sure I want to see this next bit, and he didn't either. The clear-up continues with, again, thanks to our volunteer marshals, whether they're flagging, brooming, picking up cars. We simply couldn't go motor racing without them, and their service is much appreciated by not only us as enthusiasts, but the drivers as well.
Especially in these conditions, JH, 38 degrees, working out there, and a lot of them wearing fire suits as well. Just to remind you, while we're under red flag conditions, Pirelli replay shows Marvin Kirchhofer, who's a very successful GT racer. Not his fault. These are just accidents that happen at Mount Panorama. Got into the fence. They're on a knife's edge, these cars. Hard contact, and then he was a passenger from there on in.
I wonder if we do need to ask some of the drivers why they think everybody's so loose at the moment this year, because this is across manufacturers, it's across configurations of cars. We've had front engine, mid-engined cars. We've not seen the Porsches with a loose rear end yet on the car, and maybe there's something there. I don't know, and the only good thing that will come out of this is that everyone so far has walked away, and that's great news and a testament, as Krillsy's been sick, to the safety standards that we have nowadays in GT racing. And there will be plenty of coverage of this going around the world because of its sensational nature, but this is not what we come here to see. We come to see sensational racing instead.
Pretty wild pictures, and that says a lot as the Aston Martin arrives back on the flatbed. The damage clear to see at the rear of that car. Dave Reynolds is down here driving this weekend with the Sun Energy team, and this is a Pro-Am operation, and he's the pro who's doing the qualifying. We heard Ring of Anderson.
Call me a pro.
Definitely professional, mate.
Amateur at best. Semi-professional, maybe. I don't know.
I love it.
The ultimate unprofessional.
We heard Rang of Anderson say that everyone just needs to calm down. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, Rang is probably right. It's just nuts out there. Like the track's, you know, producing much less grip than it did last year, so everyone's probably expecting the same times as last year, and it's just impossible. Yeah, the heaps of imbalance going on through our lap, and yeah, it's a battle out there.
Is the reward of being in the top 10 shootout worth the risk right now?
Oh, I think it's just a big cock-off, really. Like everyone's, it's just it's a measure of your own.
It's a measure of time. The top 10 shootout.
Yeah, you could say that. I was going to say something else, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's a 12-hour race. You know, it's not won and lost in qualifying, but you can surely lose it.
Looks like your little buddy Anton's not going to be getting a start tomorrow.
Yeah, poor Anton. Yeah, he was going good, so you know, I hope Sam's okay because that was a massive shunt. So yeah, I'll trundle down next door and make sure he's all right after this. So yeah, not very good to see, but yeah, everyone, you know, he's not the only one. There's 4 or 5 other cars that done it. So as long as I bring it back, I'll be happy.
They're flying Tyler out for a quick look on the plane as well at the moment, so hopefully he's going to be okay. We can bring you a bit more news on that one. A bit of an all-star cast down here. I saw Macaulay Jones walking around. We've got the dude, Paul Morris, in here. It's a strange makeup of this team. It's got Taylor Motorsport, but with some Brad Jones racing guys and an Erebus driver.
Yeah, it is a bit weird when you think about it like that. But yeah, we're coming together. We're making a team from what we've got, so yeah, still got a bit of work to do, I think.
All right, I like it. I'll let you get back to it. I'm going to bug Paul Morris for a second here. He's not so much flat out like a lizard drinking as flat out like a bloke drinking right now down here. Sorry, dude, I'm going to grab a quick word with you. You're sweating up a storm down here as well. What's your take on all the action that we've seen so far in qualifying?
I think they're expecting to do lap times that you can't do in this heat, and they're just pushing too hard, really. They forgot it's called the 12-hour, not the Bathurst Saturday qualifying. No trophies handed out, so you know, you've got to really refocus and think about what's going to happen tomorrow afternoon. So that's what happens.
You're a great coach of drivers. Have you had a word to Davey about how to handle this?
Oh, he knows exactly how to handle this one, mate. So you know, the guys that race here a lot and know this track know that in this heat, the gun lap times just aren't there. So shootout's nice, pole position's nice, but I don't remember who was on pole last year, and I don't remember who was in the shootout, but I know who won the race.
Finally, how would you describe this heat right now for someone who's not here watching from a nice comfy couch in an aircon right now?
It's like being in Darwin, isn't it? It's hot, and like even in the Aussie car today, it was hot. So yeah, I haven't been in heat like this ever at Bathurst. It's pretty extraordinary, and you got to adapt.
Thanks, dude. We'll see this bloke shortly, actually. Fox Sports, Aussie racing cars coming up.
It is quite extraordinary, Paul's right. It's unbelievably hot, and if you walk outside the garage at the moment into the paddock or out into the pit lane, certainly on the racetrack, it's totally off the scale. Garth Tander's lurking around here at the moment. We've just been in conversation about, and we've actually had this conversation for the last 36 hours about the way these cars achieve their speed. Place is broken down into 3 sectors, and point to point, they're not quite as quick as a supercar, but they're crazy fast from the elbow all the way, back to the cutting, or in fact the other direction. So is everybody just pushing too hard, which is a question the commentators and others are raising around here, or have we got a balance issue as a result of the temperature?
Oh, it's definitely the temperature, 100%. The grip conditions, as you know, this place, when the sun's out, it's hot, and mate, it's as hot as I can ever remember it here. The track goes away massively, and all these cars make their lap time across the top of the mountain, so everyone's leaning on it. And mistake. So everyone, all 3 of our guys are all saying it's as greasy as it's ever been, so I'm glad I'm not out there.
Yeah, your car looked like it was a little bit twitchy yesterday, but we're now seeing it across the range of all kinds of configuration cars. We've got front engine, rear engine, mid-engine. Everybody's having a battle up there.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think what we saw in Q1 was probably different to what we just saw then. Now in Q2, everyone tightens the belts up and has a real go. Q1 for most of the pro cars is really just practice 5 or 6. So they all tighten the belts up and have a crack, and it gets interesting.
That's what we're about to see. Looking forward to it. And I'll come back and talk to you about some of the technicalities of the car later in the weekend. Thanks, Garth.
Well, Garth Tander, a man who's been to the mountain more times than I can count, says that this is the hottest he's ever felt here. Patrick Pilet, it's your first time to the mountain, so how are you dealing with these heat conditions?
I mean, the temperature is okay. It's more the track. It's really something unique, to be honest. It's one of the most beautiful tracks in the world. It's not easy because you don't have a lot of driving time and a lot of caution, especially in the last sessions. But yeah, it's quite good. It's nice to be here, and you have to learn a lot. It's really special to what you know in Europe or in US even. But yeah, it's cool.
You've won Nürburgring, Sebring, just about every major endurance race, every difficult track. What would it be like to have a win at Bathurst to add to that resume?
I mean, for sure that will be something special because it's a real driver challenge, let's say. Also from the strategy, and with this temperature, it's even more difficult, I think. But we have the good things, the good team for that, especially my teammates also. Matt is in the car now for quali, and I think he's a man for this event. So I'm lucky to be with these guys, and I learn a lot and try to improve every session. But yeah, it will be amazing to have a chance to win this one.
Good luck, Patrick.
Thank you.
And guys, he's just that crazy. He's still going for runs every morning because it's not hot enough as is.
That's Patrick Pilet. I had my run this morning. That's a lie, I can't back that up. It is outrageously hot.
I don't want to run a bath, never mind anything else. We've got about 3 tenths between 10th and 16th at the moment. And remember, you've got to be in the top 10 to be in the shootout. The Pirelli top 10 shootout still to come this afternoon, so this is not the end of competitive running here on the mountain today. And that is a blink of an eye. We've got 23 corners around here. Divide that by 3 tenths. And you're losing only a fraction in each of the corners, Krilsey, and that's the difference between being in the shootout and being down in the late teens.
I winced a little bit while we were hearing from Shay down in pit lane. Matt Campbell was negotiating the patched up area at the top of the mountain, so obviously a lot of fluid drop from the Motorsport Aston that was dropped on its roof at the top of the mountain. The marshals have done a remarkable job clearing all that away, but the oil dry residue that gets left on the circuit will be dusty for a couple of laps up until 24 or 5 GT3 cars can blow that away. So the first couple of laps, I think there might be a little bit of trepidation up at the Reed Park area of the circuit, and they get a little bit beyond that to Metal Grate, where Matt is heading now. He's behind the wheel of car 911. He's 10th at the moment on the bubble of missing out on the top 10 shootout. That's where the car hit the wall. That's where it rode up the wall, and this is where it landed on its roof. And you could just see a bit of that oil dry down. Nice job cleaning it up. I think the truck will be okay in a couple of laps.
He's just dropped to 11th position. Did somebody improve there?
I think Chris, no.
Or was that
Jack
just
Dennis,
reset? That's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay.
No one's done a flyer yet, so...
No, indeed. That's what slightly confused me. Little brush of the wall.
Speaking of Jake Dennis...
Oh, Jake, come on.
Wow.
Jake Dennis, who set this place alight last year, and his career as well, in terms of international recognition. He really did a job. There's going to be a red Aston Martin wing mirror up on the top of the mountain, just where we saw the car of Marvin Kirchhofer. Well, I was going to say come to rest, but it was a bit further down the road, to be honest, as it was rolling and dissipating that energy. So again, just proving how hard people want to push early on, and that track temperature versus grip issue that Richard Creel has been talking about all week is the... Well, it's really been the harbinger of doom here.
It's nice when your work's validated by Paul Morris, David Reynolds and Garth Tander, who all said similar things, and I like Dude's comment as well, saying they're all trying to get a lap time that's just not going to be delivered in these conditions. And we talked about that at the start of the session, that the relative lap time to each other will still be very, very close, but they're not going to make the peak lap time that they did in much cooler conditions 12 months ago.
Yeah, maybe too much peering back to 2019 at the timing sheets there, thinking we've got to get down to that level, and it's just impossible. And we've got to reevaluate. And, you know, if you've not already been involved in a huge accident, you do have the chance to rate things back now.
Out of the top 10, 5 cars, so half the field, are still on pit lane. Out running at the front of the field, the 77 of Mauro Engel, he's out. JP D'Oliveira in the Nissan Nismo GT GTR, he's out for KCMG. Jake Dennis, as we know, is out, the 76 Aston Com Ledegar for the Pro-Am Aston Martin 188, that's the blue, very pretty blue and white car. Gilles Gounon is out, the Bentley number 7. And those are the cars that are out in the top 10 at the moment. I can't believe that anybody thinks they're safe so far, so there's a different mindset going on right now, Richard, in terms of what's going on at the front of the field. Remember, only the top 10 go forward.
Yeah, well, they know the time they've got left, they know the time they need to do an outlap and a couple of flyers, so they'll be working towards that without overstressing tyres and cars and adding to the risk element. Interesting to see. This will explode in the last 5 minutes. We'll have a holding pattern for a while as people just build up to this. Dries Van Thul's on a pretty good lap in car 2 at the moment. JP D'Oliveira won't improve on this. Currently 2:04.0 for the KCMG Nissan Hong Kong race team. Very, very wide on the turn into Murray's corner. Gets a turn, no improvement there. In fact, it was a 2:09.8, so bottled right out of it.
Yeah, it was a good lap last time around by that number 2.
Dries Van Thul just dropped a couple of wheels out into the dirt coming out through the final corner. 2:04.880 is an improvement, but only puts him 17th. Not a bad banker lap, though.
The problem with waiting, guys, is, you know, at the moment we've got barely 2/3 of the field out there. If everybody's out at the end, do you find a clear lap? Do you trip up over someone else who makes a mistake? And that could be an issue there.
Well, and the other issue is that another red flag. Race control may not be so generous in giving time back to the competitors.
That's a very good point.
There's an element of risk in waiting as well. It's not so time certain that we'd see in, for example, a supercars qualifying session, but at the same time, there's only so much leeway they're going to give them if they keep crashing, because the program has to roll on. JP D'Oliveira, now he's on his 3rd lap in this session. He's just gone fastest of anybody to the first split. So that's where he's starting to produce his lap time. Gilles Gounon jumps into 6th place. The Bentley gets into the show at the moment. Only 0.4 away from the fastest time, still held by Kelvin van der Linde.
999 has just gone out with Raffaele Marciello at the wheel, as has Shane van Gisbergen in the 888. So the 2 Mercedes AMG GT3 at the moment don't have a time next to them. They are keeping their powder dry or deciding to have a longer run. There's still 13.5 minutes to go here. And as we've been mentioning, these Pirelli tyres seem to be able to develop over a longer run, Rich, and get up the temperature and pressure in that longer run and still deliver a good time and perhaps the best time, maybe after 2 or 3 or even 4 consecutive laps, which seems to me extraordinary in these hot conditions.
A pretty handy lap from JP. Not my co-commentator, the driver behind the wheel, though JP's doing fine work. Goes to second. Wow, 2/100ths off. He was 2/10ths down at the elbow, but that's not where the GTR is strong across the top of Mount Panorama, Johnny Palmer. It's good going up, it's real good going down, and that's where he's made his time.
And the one we didn't mention was Raffaele Marciello coming through to do a 2:03.7, put him second at the time, but the Oliveiro slotted between Van der Linde and Marciello now to second.
On his first flying lap.
Yeah.
On his first flying lap. Now, why is that important? Because when we get to the Pirelli Top 10 shootout, you don't have those 4 or 5 laps, Rich, to build up to the absolute optimum. You've got to get it done straight away.
No, you've got 6.2 Ks to build up, and that's it. Then you're on it, and you're either first or 10th if things go really bad. Good lap from the Nissan. They've always been strong here, those cars suit the characteristics of the racetrack. We're on board with Maro Engel. He was the first winner of the Alan Simonson Pole Award when it was introduced to our late great mate, the Dane who made his name at this place in an Australian GT and was a superstar of the sport. Tragically killed at Le Mans in 2013. Pole trophy named after him for 14. Maro Engel, the first to win it. Emotional scenes. Walked the trophy down to Al's old team, Maranello Motorsport, after he, driving for Erebus at the time, won it. Bails out of that lap. It was a decent lap too. PB first sector, but elects to not go on with it. Top 5 cars, folks, covered by 0.17 of a second.
Yeah, look at the bubble, Rich. If you go down to 10th, Dominic Story in the McLaren, the 59 car. Then queuing up behind him, Aston, Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, Porsche. And they're all within 2 or 3 tenths of a second. 6 or 7 cars vying for position as here comes Raffaele Marciello. This is his second flying lap, is it? Yes, it is. Comes in.
Just started his third, and that one went quickest, 2:03.65. Moves the benchmark a little bit further forward. We've now got 3 cars covered by less than a 10th. Into the 9, or into 9th, goes Shane van Gisbergen on his first real fly at 2:04.26. That's a good starting point to get in. And the bubble now is at 2:04.3. And the difference between being in the shootout and out would be 7/100ths of a second.
I said we might need to use all 4 places behind the decimal point. And I think we're going to, Rich, because this is getting very tight indeed. 10th now, down to 16th. That is the matter of under 2 tenths of a second. Really tight indeed.
Schul's going down half a second on the best lap time. He exited the second sector, which is the top of Conrod Straight. Bentley will make up a little bit of time on the run down Conrod, currently 7th quickest. At the moment, the only car in the race for this team, though they're working hard on the sister entry. And I would expect they'll need to seek dispensation. If they don't make qualifying, you'll need to go to the stewards and get dispensation to start the race, having not qualified, but wouldn't have thought that would be a drama because car 8's been pretty fast with all 3 drivers. And their level of experience is good. Gets it stopped right on the very edge of braking down there was Jules Gunon. And there's no improvement. So for all of that, there's a 4.37. And the 4.37 at the moment doesn't even get you into the top 10.
Van Gisbergen squeezes into the top 10 at 9 for the 888 car. Remember, that's early on in his run as well. Ben Barker goes up to 11th in the Grove Racing Porsche. That's a Pro-Am car, but remember the car is not what the category is. It's the drivers and how the team is made up. So the performance potential of that Porsche is exactly the same as the 2 absolute cars, and in theory at least in the performance balanced championship and category, the rest of the top 10 that sits ahead of it.
So at the moment, Mercedes AMG, Audi, Nissan, the top 3, then another Mercedes AMG. Alvaro Parent is 5th in the 59 Racing McLaren. There in the show, Van Gisbergen goes to 6th in the AMG. That's a big improvement into the 3s. Only 3 tenths away from the fastest time. The fastest driver on the racetrack at the moment is Matt Campbell, 9:11. Personal best first and second sector, but the overall lap to this point is up. So this should, if he can complete the final few corners, get him into the top 10, if not put him right at the head of it.
And that's going to close everything up from 10th on down, which at the moment is 4 cars within a tenth of a second. This is going to come down to fractions of an inch, fractions of a second, fractions of where you hit the brake and turn in. Across the line goes the number 911.
2:03.43, that's fastest, and it's 2/10 to the good of Rafa Marciello's lap. So that's a very, very good lap time. A little bit of breathing room for the Porsche now.
And that puts Jake Dennis in the Aston Martin Vantage number 76 on the bubble, 10th position. He's in pit lane at the moment. Mauro Engel's just gone back out as Alvaro Perez comes in respectively the Mercedes-AMG GT3 and the number 60 McLaren 720. So who's in the teams, gentlemen? Who are we looking at that we think will improve? You've got Ben Barker in 12th in the Porsche, Dom Story in the 59, McLaren in 13th, Tom Ledegaard in the pits in the Pro-Am Aston, Chris Meese in the 22 Audi. He's outside the top 10 at the moment in 15th position. David Reynolds in the Pro Energy 1, the Mercedes number 75, he's outside, as is Matteo Caroli in the 912, the team car, or to what is now the top position car of Matt Campbell.
Well, he's just missed it, Carol. He's gone to 11th, the 2:04.22. He's missed out on getting in the 10 by 0.1 of a second. That'll all change. There's still 6 minutes to go. But we're now at the point where we've got 16 cars covered by 1 second. The intensity continues to ratchet up, and now it'll be Lamborghini's turn to try and work their way into the show.
Look at the times between Jake Dennis in 10th down to Colm Ledegaard, who's in the pits at the moment in 15th. Even Chris Meade, you are talking about less than half a second between 10 cars there to get into the Pirelli top 10 shootout. And that's where the action is at the moment.
We warned you this would happen. That's what this qualifying session's all about. Hold on to your hats, because the next 5 minutes could be even better. Does Raffaele Marciello go again? Do you feel safe at a 2:03.65? I think you're probably in at that, but I don't know. There's a risk involved. I think you might have to run again. And with 5 and a bit minutes to go, we've got time.
Matt Campbell's in. Now, is he just letting everything cool down on the number 911 Porsche GT3 for Ingo Matters' absolute racing team?
You're going to have to do a 3 to get into the shootout at this point. At the moment, the cut-off's at 2:04.21. Jake Dennis, who's sitting in pit lane at the moment, the Motorsport Aston Martin, is in the drop zone. He's 0.7 away from the fastest time in the session. Marco Mappelli is behind the wheel of car 22. FFF Racing, Lamborghini Huracan GT3. He has been electrifying this weekend. Correction, it's not car 22, I got that wrong, didn't I? It's car 63. But he is flying.
How about this as well, Rich? The defending champion car, Lawrence Vanter, in the number 1. He's sitting only in 8th, and he's on a 2:04 flat. Is that going to be enough? And he is out on the circuit at the moment.
Campbell's definitely not going again. He just brought the 911 Absolute Racing Porsche into the pit lane, got out of it, and JMJ, Matthew Chamineau was the first person to green him. He's taking his helmet off. That's job done for Matty.
Good to know, Shay. Thanks for that. That's interesting that it feels safe at a 4:03. I don't disagree with him. That's a very, very good lap time. And the fact that he found JP that 2/10 of a second over Raffaele Marciello, who's just left pit lane, by the way, I think that little buffer that they found, they felt comfortable enough, that was going to be good enough to get them into the show.
Yeah, and we did talk about the greasy nature of the track as well, maybe favouring the Porsche and its balance being rear-engined. But yeah, Campbell's so strong around this place, as he proved once again 12 months ago. Very much on the limit. Marco Mappelli in the 63 Lamborghini Huracan heading across the line, half a second off, but it does put him 7th and up 15 places. So it just shows, doesn't it? You put in a 2:03.8, 2:03.9, and you vault up the timing table there.
Great lap.
Chris Meese in the 22. Remember that car with a bit of damage early on. Meese in the 22 in 18th position, 2:04.5.
Not the top of Mount Panorama again.
Oh, yeah.
Mercedes AMG GT3, that's the Black Falcon Racing entry, having a fairly lurid moment, although in the context of lurid moments, that's about 6 on the ranking so far this weekend.
I don't think he's made the top 10. No. The lurid moments up there, and he might not make the top 10 Pirelli shootout either at the moment. So Porsche 911 from 999. It's the Mercedes AMG GT3. Then Kelvin von der Linde in the 222 Audi. Nismo, Nissan GTR are in with JP D'Oliveira. I reckon those top 4 are safe. Maro Engel's gone out again, mind you. So you were saying that 203 might not be enough. There's Alvaro Parent. So he's gone out again.
John, we're watching Lawrence Vantor, and they were not comfortable at a 4-0, and they're now back to 9th place. So he's improved this lap, as we expect the great Belgian to do. There's Craig Lowndes, who'll drive with H&L Bamber this weekend, watching on. So final corner, let's just see the improvement here. This needs to be a 3-7 to get him somewhere in the top 5 to be comfortable making the shootout, I'd have thought. And the effort from Lawrence Vantor is better than that. It's a 3.68 and he goes 3rd.
And the reason he had dropped down, by the way, is because Marco Mappelli had improved again in the Lamborghini number 63. So he's in at 8th position. 888 and Shane van Gisbergen's Mercedes in 9th. And Jules Gounon has just pitted the Bentley in 10th position. So that means Jake Dennis is now outside. The 912 Absolute Porsche, Matteo Caroli outside. David Reynolds, the 75 Sun Energy One AMG outside.
Well, Gounon in the pits in car 7 in the Bentley won't run again. So he's the
done.
one on the bubble at the moment. I don't think he makes it. Engel goes 2nd with that lap, 203.56. He's 0.1 off the pace. So you need to do a 4-1 to get in the show. And let's see if Jake Dennis can do it with this. It's a pretty good lap so far. Personal best 1st and 2nd sectors. Does he complete the job for R Motorsport and get another crack at this shootout? He does. 7th. 203.75 is good enough. It's only 0.3 away from pole. There's a dust storm at the top of the mountain.
And once that's bumped out Shane van Gisbergen by the way down to 10th position.
It's the Trofeo Lamborghini has gone around at the top and is parked on the fence.
Yeah, beautifully done.
How on earth has that happened?
Well, that might have been great news as the red flag came out, because Shane van Gisbergen was on the bubble there in 10th position. Gounon goes out of the top 10 for Bentley.
Guys, this is ridiculous. It's Dean Canto behind the wheel of this car. Same spot we've seen all the drama today.
Same wobble in the same place.
Yep. So that's the oversteer we're talking about.
Clips the inside wall, then gets a little bit bumpy going in, rides up over the tyre wall, gets 3-4 feet off the ground and parks it perfectly at top of the wall as if he's parallel parked it.
You are kidding me. And cleans up his own debris as well, Dean Canto.
Well, you can have a look underneath on the right-hand side and see what's done there, because those wheels are hanging into the void. Another rear-end slide.
Wow. Have you ever seen that before?
No.
In your life? Because I certainly have not. That's extraordinary. Big slide, and that's what started it. We just scrape across the front.
Absolutely.
But just the impact of getting into the tyres and the elevation.
Starts bouncing, going up onto the tyre stack.
He'll feel that in his lower back.
Oh, he will.
Later on tonight, Dean Canto.
Yeah, I didn't think it was the best idea to be leaping down from the roof of the car with that bit of rear body work. Maybe you'll feel that as well. But tyre walls are crazy things. They can often vault cars, and they just start bouncing down the road. Not a nice thing to see.
That was all about the angle. That was all about the angle that it went back in with the left rear of the car, and it just rode straight up the banding in front of that double row of tyres. Now, whatever else you say, though, guys, it's much better to have that there than for it to hit the concrete.
True.
And he's walking pretty much unaided. In fact, I'm going to say unaided to the Race Solutions medical car.
Well, good to see that Dino is relatively okay. He's a stunt driver by trade, so I guess the hat certainly fits there. Grant, you're a local guy here. You're meant to be driving that car this weekend. He nearly parked that back at your place.
Oh, he nearly did. I've never seen so many tear-ups at that part of the mountain, this early in the weekend. It's that was incredible. He was pushing really hard. We're obviously just trying to get ourselves in a nice position in our class, and Dean Canto can drive. There's nothing wrong with that bloke's skills. That was a really scary accident to see it sort of parked up on the wall. Is incredible, but My God, how many crashes are we going to see at this mountain this weekend?
It's been unbelievable. Did he say anything on the radio, any word yet of how the car might be?
Yeah, he's just been tuning it up. We just jumped a couple of cars in class, so he was really finding some speed. These are really, really horrific conditions. They're tough for the driver. It's 65 degrees inside the car, and we don't have the most effective cool suit there. And you know, the track's super hot, so it's pretty slick. He was finding time, but everyone's pushing so hard. You know, there's obviously 2/3 of the field, more so 80% of the field is hot guns from Europe, you know, in factory cars, and they're even binning them. So this is going to be a fair old race of attrition, but I'm so glad he's okay. The car should be okay, and maybe we'll continue.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Well, Matt Campbell, you said at the end of the last session you were fast, but not fast enough. You needed to study the data. Clearly, you found a little bit more speed out there. Feel good to be fastest going into the shootout?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first run was quite difficult there. We didn't quite get the tyre pressures right, made a few mistakes, and we actually made a quick change to the car and went back out, and I knew I only had one lap to try and get it all out of the tyres, and yeah, gave it absolutely everything. I mean, wasn't a perfect lap, but I think you never get a perfect lap around here. But overall, you know, extremely happy, and you know, obviously 2 Porsches in top 10 as well. So a great start, and now focus to the afternoon session.
Well done now. Good luck later.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, that will be it as far as the qualifying session is concerned. It's the top 10 that are important. So from the 911 Porsche down to the 888 in 10th position, we'll see those cars again in the top 10 shootout.
And Shane Van Gisbergen scraped in by the hair on his Kiwi chin at the very end there by 0.1 of a second. The Bentley on the outside looking in 11th place.
And we'll start in 11th, of course. That's now locked in from then on.
Solid job from David Reynolds to get the 75 into the mix as well. Ultimately, at the end of that, there were 18 cars of, what, 9 different brands, possibly 10, covered by 1 second exactly. This was the big moment that will be talked about for a very, very long time. Marvin Kirchhofer at the top of the mountain. We'll reiterate that he climbed out of this car with some assistance, but has been taken to the medical centre for checks. Enormous impact at the metal grate, and it carried on for a long time. Rode the fence and ended up upside down, landed on all 4 wheels, and Renger van der Zande, his good mate, pulled over to make sure he was okay.
Rubber the wall by Jake Dennis in the other Aston Martin. He sort of got away with that, but he was just a few millimetres away from disaster. And then Dean Cantor says, Marvin got Kirchhofer, you want to ride the wall? Hold me beer. I'll show you how it's done.
That's one of the most obscure crashes I've seen at the top of the mountain. Great Dean Cantor out the way. Through all that, we actually had a qualifying session breakout as well. And Matt Campbell with a 2:03.43 sets the pace. 0.1 of a second, the margin first to second.
And that red flag at the end keeps the bottom 2 or 3, I think, from sweating too much. Van Gisbergen, Mapelli and Jake Dennis very, very tight in 8th, 9th and 10th, but that was all she wrote once Cantor had parked the Lamborghini on the top of the wall.
So the big talking point of today as well, one of many, will be the incident in qualifying 1 that involved these 2 cars. With Sam Shakin in the Ben Motorsport Park Mercedes-AMG, Cameron McConville in the Lamborghini. Cam gave his direct opinion on that accident. He followed on in that there was Tyler Everingham involved as well in the Scandia Racing Mark car entry. Really unfortunate. He was taken for checks as well, but again, climbed out of the car. Now, this is the onboard vision from onboard Cam McConville's car. Across the top of Mount Panorama, that's 777 in front. You can see brake pressures, speed, gears, the top left corner. So basically, this onboard vision backs up the argument that McConville made when he was talked to by Chad Nailon in pit lane, described it exactly as it happened. So that just confirmed Cam McConville's take of that very, very big accident at the top of Mount Panorama.
Definitely brake lights there, and that will go to race control as well. Accident and incident packed, but they've all walked away at Mount Panorama. Well, I'm not sure I can take much more. Can we finish at the end of this? I mean, we've got another 12 hours of this tomorrow, Johnny Palmer.
It is concerning, isn't it? And the fact that, you know, conditions are such that so many seasoned professionals are making little tiny errors and massive consequences is the result. And yeah, we've had incidents where cars have been lost as they're turning through the corner, like the Audi, like the Aston Martin, the earlier problem for the 62 Aston. Then there's just the slight errors, like Jake Dennis glancing the wall, and then even a bigger problem, obviously, for Martin Kirchhofer, but it came from a mistake rather than a setup problem, I would have said. The Dean Canto Lamborghini issue, though, was a bizarre one, and I think that's going to go a bit viral over the next 24 hours.
We need to take stock of not necessarily just what happened for the cars that got into the top 10, JP, but also the ones that didn't. Gilles Gounon just outside for the number 7 Bentley Continental. He'll start in 11th place, and indeed everyone from 11th down have now set their lap time and therefore their grid position. Matteo Caroli in the 912 Absolute Porsche, out. David Reynolds in the Sun Energy 1, out. Dries Vanthoor in the 2 Valvoline Audi, out. Chaz Mostert in the Valkenhorst BMW M6, 15th position. Ben Barker, such high hopes for the Grove Racing Porsche, 16th. And so it goes on. There's some big names, Richard Creel, outside of the top 10 who won't get to go again in the Pirelli top 10 shootouts.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, though. And to be fair, when that crash happened, there were only 2.5 minutes to go, and not that many of them looked to be on particularly special laps as it happened, or were building up for one last fly right at the very end. So I'm not convinced it would have changed overly. I think Shane van Gisbergen's probably the most fortunate of the lot to have just scraped himself into the 10 right at the very end and timed it just before the red flag came out.
I think Dries Vanthoor might slightly agree with you. He seemed to be putting a lap together, which probably would have been enough. There's a lot of explainers and, you know, qualifiers rather in that sentence, but that is how it went. A big clean-up operation at the top of the mountain, and I think there's a bit of head-scratching here of how they get that Lamborghini off the wall without doing it any further damage, because that is exactly what the clean-up crew and the track services will want to do, Rich and Johnny, and that's not going to be the work of a moment.
They need a crane to move that thing.
Well, I'd be saying to Dean, you got it up here, mate.
Get it down, yeah.
Fire it up, get a bit of wheel spin going.
Well, New South Wales is the most populated state in Australia. It is home to more than 7.5 million people. Its attractions make it Australia's most visited state. Vibrant cities, rolling countryside, snowfields, deserts and beautiful wine regions. It is host to an amazing array of music and cultural festivals, as well as, of course, sporting and entertainment events as well. And those events across the state mean that there is something to do no matter what the season. And it has been a day of high drama and high temperatures, which is playing all sorts of issues at these drivers who are the best in the world, but they are being brought unstuck.
One word, wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable to watch what's been happening over the top of the hill. Always requires enormous commitment at this racetrack, and the way in which a GT3 car achieves its speed is to be driven very hard from up towards the cutting all the way over the top to the elbow. But today, some people are at 11 tenths when perhaps they need to be just at 10 tenths. And some of it has also been car balance, some of it's been traffic. Visibility's been an issue, it's so dusty. One of the things that struck me, Stubbsy, looking at the way in which the cars were transiting the gravel traps, it's so astonishingly dry. The region at the moment is parched, so the gravel trap's got no moisture in it. It's not arresting the speed of the cars. Really quite extraordinary day of qualifying. Still a whole lot more to come with the top 10 shootout later on this afternoon.
Have you seen a day quite like it? And we've still got a top 10 shootout to go.
Yeah, well, no, certainly not in the recent past. I mean, we know that that's one of the reasons why we love coming here. The storyline at this racetrack is always bizarre. And we'll probably have another twist in the story tomorrow because there's a chance that we may see some moisture. But one of the other things that we're really looking forward to this year, of course, is the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship in 2020. There's the stricken car, that Trofeo Motorsport car that was driven by Dean Canto. That is something that I have never seen before. Yeah. In fact, I've seen a couple of cars today that are frighteningly close to the top of walls, but for that to end up parked at that location, really extraordinary. But this is what our focus will be on in week 3 of February in Adelaide. a brand new Virgin Australia Supercars Championship Series, and we have got a lot to talk about.
We sure do. We had so much action last year. That man, Scott McLaughlin and the Mustang, reigned supreme. The big question, can Scotty McLaughlin make it 3 in a row? Only the greats have done it. There is a look at the calendar. As you said, Neil, only 3 weeks away from the Superloop Adelaide 500. Preceding that, of course, we're testing at Tail and Bend with the BP Ultimate Super Test. Then we're off to F1 once again, then down to Tassie. Auckland, we know, has been brought further forward to that Anzac Day weekend, and a change of location there, which we can touch on. Then we're off to Perth for our night racing, one of 3 in 2020, which we can't wait for. Winton, a campground, that'll be full once again, and a bit of a swap as well with Townsville and Darwin, Neil.
And also a new endurance race at the Bend, the location owned by Sam Shahin, who sadly has been in the medical centre. And the update on him, by the way, is that he's going to be flown to Adelaide this afternoon, and they're going to do some further scans. He's hoping that Sam's okay. He and his family and the business have done a huge amount of work at the Bend. Big investment to create that place. We're looking forward to endurance racing later on. But our lineup of drivers in the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship this year is an all-star lineup. And there's lots of plots and ploys and things to talk about here as well, because there's been quite a bit of movement. And there's also likely to be something of an earthquake, I think, at the end of this championship season as to who comes into various teams in 2021. Here's a lineup. So, recent announcement that Bryce Fullwood is going to be driving at Walkinshaw and Andretti United. Macaulay Jones back for his second year. Young Jack Smith will be out there as well. Lee Holdsworth, who very nearly walked in front of camera just a few moments ago, he's going to be out there as well. In the truck assist car, Cameron Waters, he's lurking, trying to make trouble, Lee Holdsworth, here at the moment, distracting me. Rick Kelly's going to have a brand new Mustang. Go away, Lethal. Scotty McLaughlin back to defend his crown twice. Virgin Australia Supercars champion Mark Winterbottom's going to have a new teammate this year in Scotty Pye. James Courtney, Team Sydney, a TBA in there as well. Will Davison, Chaz Mostert, car number 22 this year. That's going to take a little bit of getting used to. He likes his numbers in multiples of 11s, doesn't he? 22, 55, all that stuff. So look, it's a great lineup, and as always, it's going to be a fascinating year. When you stop and consider, there's been some refinement in the aerodynamics of the cars. They just recently completed what's called the VCAT testing. There's a control damper. There's more tyres available for 2020, 3 night races that you spoke about before. So there's always just enough intrigue, and a longer race on the Saturdays, 200 Ks on Saturdays. So lots of things for us to get very excited about, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, more racing than we've seen before in a season, which is great news. You touched on it, about how things may be going to change at the end of this year. Now, last year's silly season was chaotic, but exactly. But one of the big names that we assume, a lot of us, that won't be with us at the end of the year is Scott McLaughlin. Of course, we've seen him testing over in the States. I think he was really looking forward to getting away. The end of last year was pretty hectic for him.
Well, he latched the championship last year. 15 poles, 18 wins, 22 podium, back-to-back champion. But great test for him at Sebring in Florida just recently, the old airfield there. It's famous. They've got their 12-hour endurance race coming up for sports cars next month. It's a famous location. He tested very well for Penske. No surprise, he's an elite driver. An expectation that we'll hear an announcement at some point. Oh, he got married in the off-season as well.
Congratulations. He's watching too, and he said he's happy to be on the couch after all those crashes.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm sure his neck's probably still recovering from blazing around there in those cars. They're so cool to drive. They've got so much downforce, so much power. The tyres are soft. Here's a bit of vision of him. And they've got the new screens on them this year as well. In fact, I'm going to go and have a chat to Scotty Dixon at some stage this weekend about all that. But a huge opportunity for Scott McLaughlin. Roger Penske has got a lot of respect and time for Scott McLaughlin. He's investing in him, and I think there's a huge chance that we're going to see him in these cars more. Now, the open question that you're alluding to is what comes next? Is he going to be involved in driving these cars on a full-time basis? Understand that when you've not done Indy Lights and you've not spent much time in open wheel competitions, certainly no understanding at all of oval races, even when you're as talented as Scott McLaughlin, that is a huge mission. So whether that unfolds or not, time will tell, but fingers crossed, and I'm sure Scotty, if he does get the opportunity, do a pretty cool job.
Well, the bromance has been broken up too. Alex Premer, of course, is co-driver, victorious here at the Mountain back in October. He'll have a new co-driver this year, and it's Tim Slade.
Tim, it is so exciting. I mean, you ended 2019 fabulously on the podium in Newcastle for BJR and yourself to finish your podium, like your relationship there after all those years. That was a great way to end.
Yeah, it was. You know, I really enjoyed my time at BJR and had a great relationship with Brad and all the guys and girls there were really great to work with. So it was, you know, nice to finish with a podium. Had a nice break over Chrissy and New Year's, and
then on to some very exciting news for 2020. Joining Shelby Power Racing as Scott McLaughlin's co-driver. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I, like I said before, I've enjoyed the break, and then I sort of didn't want to get too excited too early about all the plans for this year. So yeah, Scotty and I have been mates for a long time now. So I'm really looking forward to teaming up with him later in the year to tackle the Enduros. But we'll get to have a little skid, sort of well before then. Actually get to have a drive of the car next week, and then at the first official test day at the Bend before the Adelaide race.
How many years has it been since you've been able to have a bit of a cheers during the Adelaide 500 rather than racing?
It would have been a while. I've been.
You deserve it after all those years. Good luck, Tim.
No, thanks.
Anton De Pasquale standing by for another big year in the supercars. Let's just talk about that first. Massive year coming up for you in 2020.
Yeah, huge year. Obviously, always good to start the year off with a 12-hour Bathurst, so the coolest track we have. Really looking forward to getting to Adelaide. It's been a long break. I don't like long breaks, so been a little bit too long out of the car. So again, really looking forward to getting to the Bend, having our first test day, and getting straight back into it. It's exciting.
Drivers who are coming up to the end of a contract stream always get thrown in the deep end with these kind of questions. You're spending the weekend with Triple Eight. What's that experience been like so far?
It's good. Obviously, pretty lucky to be here, racing a cool car, a cool track with a great team. So really excited to be here and be part of that. Obviously, working with a bunch of new people and some really good operators. So obviously, always learning. Every day's a learning day. But yeah, we're here doing this, and unfortunately, obviously, not moving on with it. But yeah.
Best of luck for 2020, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Well, without doubt, one of the big talking points of the 2020 Virgin Australia Supercars Championship involves this man, Chaz Mostert, and the big move from Ford and Tickford to Holden and Walkinshaw Andretti United. First of all, though, mate, congratulations. You come here with confidence. Daytona, 24 hours winner. How good was that?
Yeah, look, it's unbelievable. It hasn't quite sunk in yet. And obviously, when you're back-to-back race weekends, you always focus on the next race weekend. So looking forward to getting to the end of this weekend and getting home, and I'm sure I was thinking a lot more. But unbelievable event. Loved it last year. We weren't quite in contention, but this year just to be in a fight with the Porsches all race was really exciting to watch and be a part of. So yeah, unbelievable.
You only got home, I think, by something like 12 seconds, and those guys are up the lane at the moment. Now, early in the week, you were all full of beans. This morning, you don't look quite as healthy.
Yeah, I've a bit crook at the moment, so just managing, but race cars are like a sauna, so I'm sure we'll sweat it out in there at some stint tomorrow. But a bit under the weather, so a bit rude in the paddock. I don't mean to be. I'm just a bit under the weather.
It's not totally affecting pace, though. So earlier on in practice today, you had good pace, but we should point out this is a radically different car to the car you drove last weekend in Florida.
Yeah, I drove the GT Le Mans car is an M8 base car, and this is an M6 for the GT3, and a lot of different rules and regulations that they run around. Probably the biggest thing is that the M8 GT Le Mans car doesn't have ABS, and it also got other engine braking systems compared to what the GT3 does. So different tyre as well. Michelin last week, Pirelli this week. It's keeping me tested, but you still try to extract the lap time the same in a GT car. So it's going to be hard when I go back to supercars after this weekend, because I'll be in GT land and probably driving it all wrong.
You have been a busy boy in the back of your mind, I guess, preparations for the supercars season. What are your expectations and how's it coming together?
Look, I mean, I'm not expecting too much. We're just going to get in there, work hard, and see what we come up with. Obviously, there's a lot of rules and regulations changes this year in supercars of aero and dampers and all that kind of stuff. So just want to get in there, feel our feet around, and see what we get up to. But no big expectations. We're just going to go try and do the hard work.
All right, well, Chaz, you will tell us, of course, your number in the coming days and your sponsor lineup, so we're looking forward to that. Good luck here this weekend and for the supercar season ahead.
Thanks very much. Anytime you big guns come down to talk to me, it's always great.
It means you're doing something well.
That's
Congratulations
right.
again on Daytona.
Thanks,
all right, let's catch up with some more of our supercars stars. Let's get back into the lane.
Yeah, standing by with the other half of the Erebus equation right now, Dave Reynolds. He's got his Erebus gear on this weekend as well. 2020 is just around the corner. Are you excited to hit the streets of Adelaide again?
Yeah, really looking forward to the year. It's going to be a fantastic year. A lot of changes in the category, and looking forward to see how they roll out.
One of the big changes, you've got a new co-driver this year, and he's a little bit of a good friend, maybe even dare I say, a little bit of a brother of yours.
Yeah, we refer to him as our son. Okay. Me and my girlfriend call him our son because he's pretty wild, pretty loose, really funny, always smiling, always happy kid. Yeah, Will Brown's a good driver too, so I'm really looking forward to it.
He's a little bit of a Davey Reynolds Jr., isn't he? He's even got the look.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him. There's no hope for him, no future.
It's an amazing lineup that you and Anton are rolling out. Is there any big changes with the team, or can we expect something pretty similar to last year?
Well, there's enough changes going on with the aero shocks and the engine, so there's a little bit of engineering swap within our team. Not swap, but just a restructure, I suppose, just to make them work a bit better and closer together so we can profit from both cars. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a tough year. The calendar's a bit more spaced out for us, so that's, thanks Supercars, cheers. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We're looking forward to it.
A year without wins, but a successful year with podiums. What's the goal for this year? Can we get a few more trophies and maybe even some big things like Bathurst again?
Oh yeah, we'll give it a go. Yeah, we haven't won a race. Didn't win a race all last year, so that kind of sucked. But we had a couple of podiums. I had good speed at some point for what we had. So yeah, I'd like to say, you always want to be on pole more and win more races, but realistically, you just got to drive what you get. And sometimes other people tune their car better than you do and drive it better. So that's just how it is. But I'm looking forward to the start of the year, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be fast. I hope it's like when it was in 2013 when we went to the Car of the Future and there was many different winners, and it took a while for everyone to get on top of the new changes. So I'm hoping that's going to happen.
Good to chat, mate. Good to chat.
Yeah, cheers, man. Appreciate it.
Lee Holdsworth, he finished in the Supercars Championship in the top 10 in 2019. Just re-signed for a year with Tickford Racing. That's a pretty good start to 2020, Lee.
It's even better that it's actually 2 years.
Brilliant. Is it really? Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was good. Obviously last year I had to feel my way into the team, understand the car, develop that relationship with my engineer and the rest of the crew, and that came together about halfway through the season. So we built on that. We had a really strong end to the year. So I'm looking forward to kicking off and hopefully, starting the year where we finished and then getting better and better. But Tickford's a great place to be, and we got a new sponsor in Truck Assist, so I'm pumped for the season.
Absolutely. How many series have you done now? How many years in Supercars?
I've lost count. I certainly can't count them on my fingers. I think this is maybe my 15th. I don't know. I think it's my 15th season this year.
You've been around a while when you stop counting, but good on you, Lee. All the best for this weekend in the Audi as well.
Thanks, Charlie. It's going to be fun. Cheers.
Well, we have all these international superstars, but still the man who is all the focus at Mount Panorama for many is this man, Craig Lowndes. Welcome back, Lowndes. I'll tell you what, it's a bit of a battle within the battle, isn't it? You guys up against the 888 car. How weird is that after 15 years with that organisation?
Well, yeah, thanks. I think it's really completely weird because, for 15 years I've been sitting either my backside in one of their cars, racing for that team, or carrying that 888 number on the side of the car. So for me, it's really weird to be able to do that. And we did talk about it before the weekend, potential of having all the 888 drivers across the podium. Having Garth Tander on P3, have Jamie and Shane on P2 and us on P1.
I love how you've arranged that. It's very cool. You've had to undo a pile of muscle memory. I know you've won this race on a couple of occasions before, but you go all the way back to 94, supercar running all the way through, 7 victories. Now you're on the other side of the car, weighs, different weights, different tyres, engines up the back, ABS, traction control, whole new world.
And it doesn't have a clutch pedal. So it's quite amazing to drive
all that money and it doesn't have a clutch pedal.
No, you're trying to save weight, I believe. But I drove it into town for the first time, and the operation of all that is really sort of what I need to get my head around and understand what it needs to do. So if I actually go out on track, if I run down the escape road, I've got to learn how to grab reverse, I've got to learn how to flick turn it, because they've got traction control, all those sort of things that you obviously got to get your head around. But you're right, sitting on the left-hand side, going up through the top, and where I'm sort of deficient a little bit at the moment in time compared to the others is across the top of the mountain, where this car is really at its forte. Carrying throttle, not being able to brake, all the things you do in a supercar, you don't do in a GT3 car.
And it's a serious all-star lineup. Platinum drivers, all three of these guys, proper pedigree.
Well, Neil, you mentioned 94, going back to the muscle memory. 94, we're going to go back down memory lane as well. It's the year you won, of course, with the late Greg Hansford in an RX-7. And Lowndesy.
1932.
Yeah, I remember.
Had wooden wheels and no floor. We used our feet.
And I think I was in a Nissan Triple S Pulsar or something like that, but yes.
You haven't aged a day, either of you guys.
That's why I put a hat on now to cover the grey hair.
Dipped our heads in white paint somewhere along the line.
All right, well, Craig, it was a great first year with you on board at Fox Sports. You coming back?
I am. I'm looking forward to it. I think that last year was a bit of a whirlwind, really, to understand, standing in the pit exit of Adelaide, watching the cars file out. I know you and Scafey were saying about, that will be a true indicator about how you feel internally. I've really thoroughly enjoyed last year, but of course, I think I'm not going to be like Noddy I was at that time last year, looking at which camera to look for. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it again.
Well, we didn't scare you off. We're looking forward to it. You'll see all the action, of course, every practice session, qualifying, and will be ad break free during racing right here on Fox Sports.
We're all clear for another brand new season. That's the battle for the championship right there.
Outside, inside, we don't stop. Go worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the first to the block, we don't stop. Hey look, we don't stop. We don't stop. We don't stop. All right. I said we don't stop. We don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Go worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the first to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, down the inside. Go worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the first to the block, we don't stop.
And what an extraordinary finish.
What a drive.
Sydney Harbour, one of the most beautiful in the world. The gateway to Sydney's waters, home to the Sydney Opera House and Sydney Harbour Bridge. Of course, you can explore the harbour on Sydney's famous ferries. Head across to Manly for an afternoon on the sand, and you can dine by the harbour at Circular Quay's quality restaurants. There is certainly a sunny day here at Bathurst. Tops pushing almost 40 degrees, and that heat has claimed a number of victims with some unusual incidents, massive impacts across the top of the mountain, all of them. So cleanup is still underway. We've had a pause in the track action here, which is why we have been discussing what's to look forward to for the Virgin Australia Supercars Championship. We've got our reporters roving all around the venue this weekend, including Charlie Robinson, who is out and about at the moment.
Well, the action isn't just happening on the track, it is happening over here at Harris Park. This is exciting. All these cars have come from across Australia to compete in what will be the crowd's favourite car today. It is Maguire's Cars and Caffeine, so grab a coffee and enjoy some good-looking cars. Luke O'Neill, what is happening down here today?
Well, look, it's a cars and coffee show. You know, it's a collection of guys and girls who love their cars, and we bring them all into the one place and put them on display. And the whole idea is that it gives people who come to the 12 hour something off track to watch that's just as exciting and just as good looking.
Absolutely. There's everything from Porsche to Mercedes to Toyotas. There's so much. What some of your favourites down here?
Look, I'm quite partial to McLaren. You know, in all the years I've been involved in driving cars, McLaren has been the one that really sort of I've moved towards as the ultimate driver's car. But to be honest, we've got a car here today that is very, very rare, and every time you look at it, it reminds me of putting posters on my bedroom wall as a kid, and that's the Lamborghini Diablo GTR race car. So we have this bright orange example that raced in the one make series in Europe in around 2000, running a 6-litre V12 manual gearbox, proper race car. And it's been lovingly restored by the company Reiter Engineering, who built it from the ground up. It's owned by one of my clients here, and he's brought it down to put on display. It's
good. There's not many of those in Australia.
That would be the only one in Australia. It is number 19 of 30 in the world.
Wow.
I would say in that condition, that's probably the only one in a fully restored condition.
That's great, because I love the 12 hour. It is like what dreams are made of with all the cars on the track. But to be able to come down and touch someone's actual car and vote for them. And the winner will be announced this afternoon, correct?
Correct. We run what's called the People's Choice Awards. So you can come down here, have a look, come over to the Maguire's tent, vote for your favourite car. And then later this afternoon, we'll announce the winners. And the great thing is, whoever is the winner of voting gets to choose whatever car they want, Charlie. Any car they want, they can take home for free. Fully insured, fuel, and a year's worth of tyres.
Can I take the McLaren?
Done. I'll line it up for you.
I'm voting.
I know a bloke who does the voting, so just...
All right, can't wait to see who wins. Thanks, Luke.
Wonderful.
Not rigged at all. I would take any of the cars on offer today. So Mount Panorama, as we've said, has claimed a number of victims today. Dean Canto, we saw his car being removed from the mountain after parking it up on top of the fence. But there's been plenty of other big names who've been brought unstuck. Now, we've got some vision that has come to hand from one of the fans as well. First of all, this is the on-track incident as we saw between Sam Shaheen that sent him into the fence, which was a shocker, wasn't it?
And Cam McConville, so sadly nose-to-tail contact there, where for whatever reason Sam has just eased out of the throttle and we think has touched the brake. And this is fan vision from up the top of the hill at Skyline, just tells you a bit more about what happened. But have a look at what happens with Tyler Everingham. That's the second part of the incident, and the marked car that makes that contact down the side. Now, Sam's actually going by private aircraft back to Adelaide for further scans, so he's still not 100%. So fingers crossed that he'll be all okay. And I spoke to Ryan McLeod, the owner of the marked cars, and this one's toasted. That was a brand new car.
Yeah. Reminiscent in some ways as he rode up over the fence there, Tyler, of the Chaz Mostert incident here a number of years back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just frightening to see these things that, getting twitchy and out of shape up at Reed Park and also McPhillamy and at Skyline, because there's no room for error in this location. So you've got concrete walls, and the gravel trap at the moment is very, very dry, so it's not arresting the speed of the cars very much. And the other incident involving car number 62 was pretty spooky there as well, the Aston Martin.
Yeah, well, that was the first time we've seen that vision from the fan, and it was audible, the sigh from the garages that are watching this vision as we go to where that was the first time they've seen it too, and quite frightful stuff. Well, Chad Naylon is one of our reporters here across the weekend and commentator. Chad, we'll cross over to you. What have you got?
I got myself an autograph session, Stubbsy. This is actually quite a bit of fun. I'm out the front of the Audi team right now. We've got a sea of Audi stars, so it's a pretty good time to get in and chat to some of these guys. Sorry, Marcus is about to sign some autographs, so I'll quickly grab him. Marcus Winkelhock, welcome back to Australia. You're more of a regular here. What's your take on today? We've seen some crazy action out there.
Yeah, I never have seen something like that. I think at the end we have to be happy that nothing really serious happened, that everybody got out of the car. This is the most important thing, and I hope that the rest of the weekend will be a little bit more calm.
Yes, I agree with that. Good to see you again. The Audi's always in contention. Garth Tander's back here. You've been pretty close here a few times. How's the speed going? We've only got one car in the shootout, but they're all pointing in the right direction at least.
Yeah, they're all not written off, so that's a start. We've seen plenty of action. So, yeah, our car just didn't like the heat at all. So a lot of understeer. So got a bit of work to do overnight because it's still going to be hot tomorrow. So, yeah, we're not happy with where we're at, but luckily it's a 12-hour race. Plenty of time to catch up.
Exactly, mate. A lot of time to catch up. We've got Chris Mees while we're here. You've been sub 2 minutes, Chris, around this track in an Audi R8, but not today. 2:04 is about as much as that thing had, I think.
Yeah, like we tried everything. We tried to change the setup during the session, like we put higher rake in and stuff like that, reduced camber in the rear. Just the rear was so stable, like I could do whatever I wanted, it just didn't turn around. And unfortunately, the field, or good for the fans, but unfortunately for us, the field is so tight together that it wasn't enough.
You're one of the guys who has experienced nearly 10 years of racing Audis here in Bathurst. How far has this race come in a decade now?
I remember when I came here the first time, like how small the whole event was and how big it is now. It's really cool to see all the fans on top of the mountain and even down here for the autograph session. It's really cool.
Yeah, no autograph session 10 years ago. Good to see you back here. What is Marcus Winkelhock even doing? There's not actually a staircase there. I wanted to grab Freddie for a second. Come on through, we'll grab Freddie. He had that little moment earlier. I'm making it nice and hard on you. There we go. Pray for Freddie right now is the hashtag.
They prayed too late. You had to pray before. So.
How's the car, mate? It looked okay at the end of it and you got back out there.
No, it's crazy that the guys did such an awesome job to put it back in the session, and it's such a shame Dries couldn't finish his lap. I mean, that would have been such a big reward to be in the top 10, but yeah, mistake has happened, and we're still in contention. The car is still alive. So I think we have a strong package for tomorrow.
All right, good to see the Audi guys are having a bit of fun down here.
Well, there has been plenty of carnage across the mountain so far, and we still have the all-important Pirelli shootout to come. A top 10 shootout across the mountain. We love that no matter what form of motorsport we are watching. The 12-hour, of course, kicks off the motorsport season on Foxtel. The AFL season is soon getting underway on Fox Footy. You won't miss a minute of the action.
Around the planet, welcome to Fox Footy. Oh, he's got it! If you don't mind, have you seen anything like that before?
Working hard, they control it brilliantly.
Oh, that's over the top. That's it. Look at that emotion. Where else in the world would you rather be?
Sorry, mate. Yeah, let's get her in. Coming up.
Well, regional New South Wales is home to 2.7 million people and considered the most diverse regional economy in Australia. Beautiful countryside, national parks, winery regions, rivers and beaches, and of course, some spectacular motorsport landscape as well. None more so than right here at Mount Panorama in beautiful Bathurst. Neil Crompton, the weather is still just playing absolute havoc at this place. And I tell you what, we saw Dean Canto having his car removed from the mountain after parking it on the fence. We've seen the incident with Sam Shahin, that one with Cam McConville that caused a little bit of heat in the lane, not of the temperature type either, but Roland Dane wasn't too happy about that one, of course, overseeing that entry for Sam Shahin at 888.